from each region qualifies through. So we've already had our first 3 drivers get on the grid for the Super Final. The second Rivals contest will be on the 13th of December. So do look out for those. Anyone can enter, no matter where you're from. Then we'll roll forward to the next Rivals event. Again, as we say, it's going to be a hot lap contest. So it's just a case of going on, setting a time. If you're quickest in your region, you go through and you become one of the 18 drivers in the 9 Pro-Am teams. Now, the AM drivers in those Pro-Am teams are made up by qualification events which are done at Autosport, as well as 2 FIA World Endurance Championships. So at Autosport, anyone can come along, set a time. If you're one of the 3 fastest drivers there, you qualify through to be one of the 9 AM drivers. Then we go back to collect some more pro drivers on our Rivals competition, which, as I said, is online on Forza Motorsport 7. The 4th Rivals Hot Lap contest will be starting on the 31st of January. The 18th of March, we then collect our 4th, 5th and 6th AM drivers at the FIA World Endurance Championship Sebring race, which is going to be on the 18th of March. And then we roll forward to the 5th Rivals contest, which will be on the 27th of March. And the 6th one will be on the 24th of April. We do have another one. We'll collect our final 3 drivers for the Pro-Am teams at Spa-Francorchamps, the FIA World Endurance Championship race on the 25th of April. At the end of all of that, we'll have 18 pro drivers and 9 AM drivers, and then we'll do a draft where we will pick 2 pro drivers and 1 AM driver for each team at random, and that will make 9 teams for our Super Final. Harry, a lot of changes, a lot to take in there. What do you make of it all?
I think it's great that there's multiple ways to be able to qualify, so it makes sure that when we get to the Super Final next year, we're going to have the finest drivers on the grid performing in front of us for our entertainment. And obviously, the chance to win money for themselves it's the best way of doing it, I think. Rather than just having one niche way of qualifying, then you can actually go down the route of hot lapping, or you can take part in these series. And it just makes sure that we get the best drivers available at the best time for the Super Final.
Yeah, as we said, we're collecting our pro drivers here. We've got that Pro-Am class as well. 2 separate classes fighting on the same track at the same time, but for 2 different prize pools. $100,000 is going to be up for grabs in the pro class at the Super Final. $50,000 up for grabs in the Pro-Am class. So although you're in a separate class, you're still fighting for a big prize.
Yeah, it does make sure that there's always something that you're fighting for. Every position that you're going to be fighting on track for is always going to be worth something, no matter what class you're in, who you're racing for. There's always something to be chasing. So if you're having a bit of a bad race in any particular race, it's always worth not letting your head drop. Just keep going, try and chase down that car in front of you, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be worth that little bit extra money, and it's always a great incentive.
And it's great, isn't it, that you don't even have to own a console or a game to be able to qualify through. There's 3 chances to become one of those 9 AM drivers at Autosport, which is only just around the corner, and then at 2 races as well. So we could have someone who's just simply a fan of FIA World Endurance Championship racing, go along to Sebring or Spa, and next thing they're competing in the Super Final at Le Mans.
Yeah, it's so inclusive, as you say. The fact that they don't have to be able to do it at home, they can go to these, like say, for example, the Autosport Invitational. We might find some hidden talent and hidden gem that they've not had the experience of racing on a console at home. They come to these events, they've just got a natural ability to be able to be good enough to qualify, and that really captures the essence of esports. To a point, as much as we like seeing people performing to their very best at home, in the best scenario possible, to then also come away from that and then be able to find a niche talent that hasn't been able to show that through the world stage yet. They can go to these invitational events, show us what they can do, and that can be the beginning of a long road for them.
It can indeed. Now, as we said, we did have the first Rivals event that happened only recently. 7,000 people took part in that over 10 days. All you had to do was go on and set a lap time. And here were the fastest lap times at the end of it. So as you can see, Fenir there did a 3:17.669. Now, it was around Le Mans in the Toyota, I believe it was. Vettel there in second. We had the fastest driver from each region go through. So as you can see, we had Fenrir go through from the Asia region. Vettel went through from the Americas region as well. And then we had our French driver down there in 6th place there. D. Joker went through from the European region. So you don't have to be in the top 3 overall. You just have to be the fastest in your region. So congratulations to those 3 drivers. We're going to be seeing you at the second super final next year. We were there, of course, this year. What a fantastic experience, wasn't it?
It is. It's first time for me and first time for you as well. And just to be able to be in that environment, especially for the guys doing the esports stuff, they're taken to the event, the actual Le Mans race itself. They've got their own designated area there where they're going to be racing. So people who have gone to that event to watch the Le Mans 24 hours know for real, they've also getting to experience the esports side of it, and vice versa. The esports guys that are all there, including ourselves, we also then get to experience the actual Le Mans race as well as everything else that's there. There's a lot to enjoy about it. There's a lot to it's a big track, a lot of walking area to go, so there's a lot to enjoy.
Yeah, and our race actually finishes just before, about 3 hours before the main race starts. Of course, the top 3 got to stand on the Le Mans podium as well, where around 24 hours after that, the real winners got to go and stand on as well. So fantastic. We had the likes of Fernando Alonso come along. Alan McNish was another guy that turned up as well during the race. So we had a lot of big names coming through. But to give you more of an idea of how the event went, let's play this video for you. You can have a look. Well, there we go. Brings back some memories.
It does. Good memories, great memories. Watching the esports guys do what they do best and putting on a fantastic show for us to enjoy, and then going out the front door of where we were situated and then watching the actual Le Mans race take place. What more can you ask for as a motorsport fan?
And you talked a little bit there about the actual experience. You may have seen in the video there, it weren't just the racing on the sims that the guys got to do. Bit of karting as well. We also went to the museum as well. Got to go on the Ferris wheel at night time as well. I didn't actually get to go on that. I think you were asleep for about 17 hours when that was going on after the shift we had in on the commentary. But what did you make of being in the atmosphere of Le Mans? It's a once in a lifetime experience, isn't it, for a motorsport fan?
It is. It's not something that I particularly ever envisioned doing. So I always thought it was just too much for me to be able to do. It's a 24-hour race. It's really sort of grueling. You have to be really dedicated to make the most of the experience. As you pointed out, I obviously wasn't, so thanks for that. But no, it was great because it's so long. You can do it at your pace as well. You haven't got just an hour and a half to make sure you watch the race. You've got a full 24 hours to pick what you want to watch, and if you want to take a little break, then that's fine as well.
And I mean, after all of that, of course, we had the race itself in the super final. A grueling 24 hours it was, because it was 9 races, wasn't it, over 24 hours. You mentioned this earlier. One of the biggest challenges about that was having to reset for 9 different races, even throughout the night. Yeah,
and I think that's what was in particular very good about the structure of the super final. It wasn't just one 24-hour race. We had multiple 9 races, as you say, in different classes, different cars. So it's a case of you have to manage your drivers and know who's going to be driving what. And of course, we had the budget as well, where you had to really sort of strategize whether you wanted to be in the faster car in certain races, or save the virtual budget for the final race where the most money was available. So there's so much of a strategic element to it that made it all much more than just racing around a track.
Well, if you're not planning to go to try and race at the Le Mans Esports Series, you can also, of course, go and just enjoy Le Mans itself. There's already an offer going on for tickets. Here's some more info about that now.
All right, we're on a top step. Is this the year?
These images are real. This is not make-believe.
Of the Circuit de la Sarthe in France.
You too can witness the myth. Join us for the 24-hour Le Mans weekend on June 13 and 14, 2020. Take advantage of our early offer until January 31st on ticket.lemans.org.
Well, there you go. Le Mans. Fantastic stuff. It's going to be a fantastic event, but of course it is a long road to get there as well. We've got to do the Pro Team Qualification Series, of course, as well, to get 6 of our teams. Let's talk a little bit about some of the teams that are going to be coming up in this one. Quite a lot of teams applied for it, but 16 have made it through. We start with Alien Motorsport, Forza Racing Championship team. Quite a big team, 15 members of theirs currently race on Forza. They are former FRC champions as well. Those are the 3 drivers they've put forward for this, and they are the first of our 16 teams.
We've also got Fast Racers Forza, a Forza Racing Championship team, so a lot of experience there on the Forza Motorsport games. They'll be looking to bring that from that series over to the Mans Esports Series to take on the rest of these competitors that we have.
Then we have Fordzilla. Very exciting entry, this one. This is the Ford Esports team, launched in the summer of this year. So quite a new team. Hopefully they've been able to gel quite quickly together, but they've got the backing and they'll want a good result in this one.
Speaking of backing, we've also got Jean Alesi Esports Academy, an academy launched in 2018 by former F1 driver Jean Alesi, a legendary name in motorsport, and the academy offers training and support to sim racers, giving drivers the chance to become professional esports athletes, which is what these 3 drivers on screen will be hoping to do today.
Speaking of backing again, here is Jota Esports, another Forza Racing Championship team. Of course, the Jota team racing in the FIA World Endurance Championship in LMP2 with Antonio Felix da Costa, Roberto Gonzalez and Anthony Davidson. They're 5th in the LMP2 Drivers' Championship after a win at Shanghai. So those guys will be looking to continue winning form here at round number 1.
Then we have the Lazarus team, Forza Racing Championship team again. They're runners-up from earlier this year in that competition. They also cover a variety of different esports, so well versed in this industry, and so they're a big name to watch for this series as well.
Straight after that then we've got Legion of Racers, the first sim racing team from Singapore. So just gives it this whole series a more international feel. They'll be really keen, of course, to get halfway across the road and get to Le Mans. They've got to finish in the top 6 in the championship to do that, so they'll be keen for a quick start.
Following on, we have Lightspeed Esports, a community-based team featuring finalists from the previous season, the first season of Le Mans Esports. So we'll be looking to see how they can all go one step further together as a team and try and get as much money as possible from that super final if they qualify.
Next after that we've got Pashura Motor Center Esports, a Polish community team. There is a few community teams in this. I'm sure they'll be in their own battle as well. They narrowly missed out on the super finals last year, so let's see if they've been able to use that experience and prepare even better for a good shot this year.
We have the Raging Dragon Esports team, another team from the Forza Racing Championship. So again, lots of experience on their side, although it is their first adventure into the Le Mans Esports Series, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them.
Okay, next up we've got Red Bull Racing Esports, of course, coming off the back of a very good result. They last weekend crowned themselves the Forza Racing Champs of 2019. So they are an informed side and they'll be hoping to get off to a winning start here in the qualification series.
Rise Motorsport, like a lot of other teams in this series, they feature in the Forza Racing Championship competition as well. So again, once again, lots of experience to rely on, trying to bring that over from that series into the Mans Esports, but of course it's a different ball game here.
Okay, next up we've got Solar Vision Racing, a community team, so haven't got the backing of the likes of Red Bull, Jota, Fordzilla as well. They could be classed as underdogs, but they'll be hoping to take on the mighty likes of Red Bull, Jean Alesi, Jota, Lazarus.
Team Highlands Racing, a great example of how international this series is. They're New Zealand-based racing team founded in 2016, so just a few years of experience under their belts.
Then we've got Virtual Drivers by TX3, a French Forza Racing Championship team. They'll be very keen to finish in the top 6 and get themselves to the super final in Le Mans. Of course, Baguette Racing, the all-French lineup, finished 2nd last year. Virtual Drivers will be keen to do something similar.
And last but not least, we have VP Gaming, first time competing in the Le Mans Esports Series. They are world champions on the Project Cars 2 platform, so they'll be looking to bring their experience from there over to Forza Motorsport. Of course, it's going to be very difficult taking on the great list of teams that we've all just listed.
Well, there you go. You know the teams, you know how the qualification works. How about this 5-round championship? How does it all work? Well, as we said, it is 5 rounds. At each round, we're going to have 2 races. We've already had qualifying for race number 1, which is going to be a sprint race. And then race number 2 will be an endurance race. So points in this one, it's 25 points to the winner of this one, 18 for second, 15 for third. The top 10 score points in total. And in the endurance race, it's 38 points to the winner, 27 to second, 23 to third, and then we work down 2 points to 10th place, and then out of the top 10, 11th to 16th get just the 1 point. Now, if you don't qualify, of course, there is an incentive still to do as best as you can, because there is $50,000 prize fund up for this, which makes $200,000 prize fund in total. Of course, $100,000 to the pro teams at the super final, $50,000 to the pro-am teams. The remaining $50,000 is awarded out in this. The winning team will get $10,000, $7,500 to second, $5,000 to third, 4 to fourth, 3,500 to fifth, and then 3,000 to sixth. But all the way down to 16th, everyone gets a bit of money.
Yeah, as we've mentioned, it's always going to be worth fighting for that extra position. So although you might not be looking at getting a great points haul, it's still going to be, every point counts, as you say, because we're going to be, especially in the endurance races, there's points available for absolutely everyone. So you don't want to be putting all your eggs in one basket. In the endurance races, 'cause obviously on paper that's where all the points are. But sprint races, they're quicker races. You've got to be bold in them, but you can't afford to be throwing away valuable points that are going to be useful towards the end of the series.
We're almost ready to go, but just a couple of points before we do get going. Of course, one thing we did talk about earlier was the racing points tactics throughout the series. You only have to finish in the top 6. There's big points up for grabs in those endurance races and in the points and in the sprint races if you finish in the top 5 as well. Consistency is going to be key, isn't it? It's if you're in second, it could just be worth settling for second and grabbing the points. But of course, the higher up you finish, the more money you get.
Yeah, you've got to be smart about it. First and foremost, you've got to be smart about how you go about your race. So yes, you've got to consider, obviously the first race, it's pretty much hell for leather. Everyone's on level playing field, everyone's got the same amount of points to begin with, so you might as well go for it, whilst not taking unnecessary risks. But as the series goes on, you've got to start taking into account your championship position and whether it is worth risking that overtake for another position in front of you to get the extra points to try and move you up the championship if you're already qualified. That's the difficulty. You've got to weigh up the difference between earning a bit more money by finishing higher in the championship but not risking throwing away a top 6 finish overall.
Very quickly, ones to watch?
I think it's going to be the Red Bull Racing esports team. Following on from what they've achieved over the last couple of weeks with the Forza Racing Championship, I think it's very difficult to look past them, but you never know.
Well, we ran a poll earlier on Twitter at Le Mans Esports. You can use hashtag LMES to get in touch throughout the evening. Here was what the poll suggested. A lot of our followers were getting in touch and voting. Red Bull Racing Esports came out on top, 42% for them. Lazarus, 18%. Of course, they finished second in the Forza Racing Championship last weekend. Another team, 40%. So Red Bull Racing are the heavy favourites for this one.
They are, but that 40% does show that there's still belief in those other teams. There's other 14 teams that we've just listed. Lazarus, of course, a good team. Proven by, as I said, the Forza Racing Championship position. But 40% for any other teams is it's still not as much as the one for Red Bull Esports. But it means there's still a lot of belief in that anything could happen, and it usually does.
Well, let's find out. Let's get straight into the action then. We're going to be going into our sprint race first. We're going to be racing at Le Mans in the Ferrari Italia GTE. I think we're almost ready to go. What do you make of the car-track combination?
It's iconic, isn't it, really? And Le Mans, a great endurance track for GT cars in particular. And the Ferrari, iconic team, iconic car. Can't really complain about that combination at all.
Yep, they did very well, of course, at Le Mans this year as well, did the Ferrari. So we're in the Ferrari 458 Italia GTE. Let's get into the grid then before we do get going. We did have qualifying earlier, as we said. Myself and Harry did get a quick look at it. And there you can see Jota took pole position with Jacob Bokit, who was at the Super Final this year. He's going to be on pole position. Lazarus is going to start up alongside, so 2 big names at the front there. Virtual Drivers by TX3, they qualified up in 3rd place, so a good start for them. As for Solar Vision Racing, Alex McDonald putting the car on P4. Lightspeed Esports then are going to be 5th. Callum Lawrence in the car for them in this one. Ben Jobson for Alien Motorsports on the outside of row number 3. Then we roll to row number 4. A good start in their esports careers for Fordzilla in their first outing. Fast Racers Forza line up on P8. P9 then is VP Gaming. .de. The Jean Alesi team, of course, fairly new to esports. They're going to start 10th place, so a fairly solid start for them. Then just outside of the top 10, we go to row 6. Pashura Motor Center Esports are on row 6 with Raging Dragon Esports. And then we go to row number 7 after that, where we've got Team Highlands Racing, the New Zealand-based team. Red Bull Racing Esports, a surprise. Alexandra Arnoux, who of course did very well at the Super Final this year. He's going to have a job to do now from row number 7. Rise Motorsport and Legion of Racers are row 8. Some surprises in there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most notable being the positioning of the Red Bull Esports team. 14th. It didn't go to plan for them. But you have to be, hats off to Jota and Jacob Boket for his performance there. Stinking on pole. He's done what he needs to do. Opening race, the very first race of the series. Everyone's got to be worried about that. Getting on pole is such a motivational boost. In terms of your mentality going into the race. You're the one that's got to keep everyone behind. You're not got to worry about overtaking. You just got to drive your race from the front and hope you can stay out of trouble.
And this car and track combination, of course, long straights. We're expecting some close racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a circuit of two halves essentially, isn't it? You got the long Mulsanne straights, good for promoting overtaking into the chicanes, and then you come back down the other end where you're going to need a lot of downforce to get yourself through the high-speed corners. So we'll have to see how they've set up their cars to make the most of that, and whether they've gone for a slower, maybe overall lap time, but with the benefit of having a little bit less downforce to help them overtake and defend.
It's one of those tracks as well. If you can get a break, then you're going to put yourself in a really good position early on, especially in this sprint race, because they're going to be going right to the end in this.
Yeah, breaking that slipstream barrier is going to be the key if they can do that. Remaining in it is also going to be the key for the ones behind. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. Hopefully we'll get a clean start to the series, but we're only moments away from seeing that now.
Of course, these are our pro teams. They've got 5 rounds to score as many points as they can and pick up some money along the way. But it's all about finishing inside that top 6. It's at the end of today, even though it's only round 1, you want to see your name in that top 6, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want a safe start. You haven't got to go and get a double first place. You just want to be in and around the region of the top 6 after this first event to give yourself a platform to build upon. You don't want to be towards the bottom and having a real big look up to the top teams and wondering, how are we going to claw that back? Because obviously, the top teams, with how quick they are, they're going to do well to get lots of points. So if you start falling back quickly, that mountain just gets ever higher to climb.
And you've got some experience yourself, of course, racing at high level of esports. Red Bull, a lot of pressure on them, I'm sure, to get to Le Mans. Do you think that's going to be playing on the minds of the drivers, where compared to some of the community teams who may not have that pressure? Do you think that can help them in a situation like this?
Ultimately, I think it depends on the type of person they are. When they're sat there in the rig, doing their driving. For me, I was honestly never that great with having to deal with this expected pressure. But we'll just see how they get on. Community is going to be ones to watch, but the pro teams, they're pro teams for a reason, and they're like Red Bull Esports. They're the ones to watch. Well,
we'll get plenty more of the thoughts from Harry Jacks throughout the race, but it's time to go racing for the first time in the Le Mans Esports Pro Team Qualification Series. This season number 2, the road to the Super Final. We are about to get it underway in terms of our pro teams, so we're going to get down to the grid very shortly and get the race underway. The teams are ready, the drivers are ready, we're ready. I hope you guys are ready as well. This is the start of what's set to be a fantastic series of racing. Some of the best teams in esports battling it out to be in the top 6 and get their name on the list for the Super Final at Le Mans next year. So teams currently gridding up at the moment. As you said, it could be a very busy first corner, can't it? Well, let's get into that first corner now, and we can see Jota just ahead of us leading the way at the moment. We're already side by side as we go in towards turn number 1 there. Looks like Lazarus are trying to get down the inside. Oh, and a little bit of contact there. That's Raging Dragon, who have gone off at the Dunlop chicane, unfortunately. They rejoined the circuit. It looks like Jota, I think, may have just held on to their lead as we now work our way downhill through the left. We're heading towards the Mulsanne straight, and a little bit of contact there, Harry.
Yeah, lots of argy-bargy going on in the first few corners. They're also desperate to make up resistance because it's a sprint race. And there's a big crash here.
Oh dear.
The number, I think that's
Then
the
that's
number
the
2 car.
That's the number 2.
So that might be the Raging Dragon Esports car. So again, we saw them involved in a crash a little while earlier, or argy-bargy earlier, and now they had a full crash. So a disastrous start for them.
Unfortunately, indeed. But Virtual Drivers by TX3 look like they've got themselves up into third place. A fantastic start from them as we head down the Mulsanne Straight for the first time towards the first chicane. Heavy braking now as we go into the first chicane. We can see the leaders ahead of us. It is Jota leading Lazarus at the moment. We are on board with Virtual Drivers by TX3. This a good position to be in. They can see the 2 leaders ahead. Is it worth the 2 leaders at this point, Harry, trying to work together?
Absolutely. I say it's only a 5-lap race, so if they can get that break early, they've only got a number of laps to fight themselves essentially for the race win. But it's going to be so hard to break that slipstream. If they can, they'll be looking to do so. But if they're going to be battling, this could be a race-long train.
We're looking back at Solar Vision Racing at the moment, who are in 4th place, just coming through the second chicane. We now go on board with Jota, and you can see Lazarus there. I'm sure they're going to be looking behind and seeing the likes of Virtual Drivers and Solar Vision Racing getting closer and closer. But we can see there Lazarus just pulling out the slipstream. Now, is that to ensure they stay behind, or is that just to fill the mirrors?
Well, we'll see in a matter of seconds whether they go for a move up the inside, which it doesn't look like they're going to do. So, yeah, they may have cottoned on to what you said. They're running wide with Jota, so they've opened up the door, and Lazarus through into the lead. Yep,
Lazarus take the lead early here. Then Jota, a mistake there from Jacob Bokit, and he drops himself down to second place. So an unfortunate mistake there, but of course we're now going to come up towards Indianapolis and Arnage, and we'll see if Jacob can retake that lead. The Lazarus car there just weaving, trying to break the toe at the moment. As we said, Raging Dragon hit problems early, but other than that, it looks like everyone is still circulating nice and safely. Raging Dragon, albeit off the back of the field at the moment. As we now go down towards Arnage for the first time, the Jota car there was debating a move down the inside, but thought against it in the end. Now, as you can see out of Arnage, one car just getting a little bit sideways there, as it's still TX3 team in 3rd place. And then in 4th place it is Solar Vision Racing at the moment. Fast Racers Forza are in 5th place as we now head up through the Porsche curves for the first time.
Yes, there's going to be a common theme, I think, when we see them coming out the slow speed corners, lighting up the rear tyres. They've got no assists racing in this series, so no traction control, no ABS, no stability management. They're almost side by side for the lead. Jota trying to work a gap and trying to force Lazarus into a mistake, but they think better of it as they come towards the end of the first lap of 5.
So down to the chicanes for the first time. And we can see there the Jota car just slotted into 2nd place. Virtual Drivers by TX3 have themselves in a very good position in 3rd place at the moment. I have to say they've got a gap either side, so they can just concentrate on their own thing at the moment. Solar Vision Racing are there in 4th place as we now come across the line to complete lap number 1 of 5. And so far so good. As we look a little bit further back, we've got some battling going on here, and that looks like who we got there, Harry.
I think it's the Alien Motorsport car. It was right outside of turn 1, now on the inside for the chicane. As they're getting so close to the car in front, it's so difficult to defend when you're in a bunch of 3, because you've got to try and outbrake that car that's trying to overtake you without running into the car in front of you, which they just managed to do, but they're still side by side, just inseparable. Yep,
Red Bull Racing that is now coming down the inside. So Red Bull, who started on row number 7, remember, working their way up the order nice and quickly now. By my maths, that should be them well up into the top 10, around 5th place. I think that puts them now as they come onto the Mulsanne Straight for the 2nd time. So Red Bull Racing doing a good job. They're 7th place in fact now, so good stuff by them. They're starting to move forward. They've got Light Speed Esports ahead of them now to go into 6th. This is Jota, who are behind the Lazarus team. They don't look like they want to go into the lead at this stage. Again, I think they're just trying to minimise the amount of battling that they're doing at the moment. Again, we go back to this battle with Red Bull Racing. That is them, in fact, on the move once again, isn't it? That's them past Lightspeed Esports, and they now go up into 6th place.
Yeah, we said they were going to be ones to watch. They've gone from 14th to 6th in the space of just over a lap and a bit. So they'll be wondering what could have been if they're starting further up the field where they were the top 2, looking like they're breaking away. But they're still in a great shout of getting a podium, well, at least a podium at this point.
This is great stuff from Lightspeed Esports. They're one of our community teams, So they haven't got the backing of the likes of Red Bull Racing, but they are still showing their class and their quality in that team, and they are fighting away with the team that last weekend crowned themselves the Forza Racing champions of 2019. As we come out of the chicane, down the Mulsanne straight once again, there you can see the Red Bull Racing car. They've almost got something to live up to now, haven't they? They're carrying that title. That means they've almost got a target on their backs now, isn't it?
Absolutely, and they'll probably be relishing the opportunity that they've got now to show what they can do in this series. Coming from almost the back of the grid, fighting their way through, not just starting on pole and then driving to the finish without being challenged. They're having to overtake cars, defend from other cars, and they're really showing us a great load of skill here.
I think Legion of Racers, just looking down the field, are another team that unfortunately have run into some problems early doors here. They seem to be down the field at the moment, but we're going to stay with this battle for the time being. There you can see the Red Bull car now just making its way up through Indianapolis, now down towards Arnage, and up ahead that's where our two leaders are just coming out of now as they make their way down to the Porsche curves. We can see the Lazarus car, just ahead of us. Again, like Red Bull Racing, a good result for them last weekend, and Lazarus looking to carry that form over here into the Pro Team qualification series, and a little bit of contact there, and Jota have gone through. So Jota there, it looked like some contact to me. I'm sure our officials will be looking into that. One of our officials being Will Tregurtha, who has of course plenty of experience racing in these kind of cars, and we'll have them looking into that. I'm sure it looked like a little bit of contact to me. I don't know if it was just a mistake though from Lazarus.
It was certainly bold, whatever it was, but they've managed to get themselves through. I say we'll keep an eye out to see if anything comes through regarding that move. We're aware that there's some other teams under investigation throughout the first 2 laps for misdemeanors by the sounds of things, so we'll try and keep you up to date with anything that comes of those. But these two, they have come to contact now once at least. They are breaking away from third place, who's sort of in a world of their own at the moment, the virtual drivers by TX3. Good performance for them so far, but it looks like these two are in a class of one.
They are indeed. They're just trying to stay as close with each other as they can without being too bold. Of course, they don't want to do anything silly and take the pair of them out of contention. Of course, lots of points up for grabs, even though this is the sprint race. The winner will get 25, the second will get 18. So that 7 points different is enough for them to just want to fight this one out, even though we are only at the start of the season. As we now head onto the Mulsanne straight once again through Tech Rouge, and a good exit there from Jota. They've just managed to pull a couple of car lengths over Lazarus at the moment, so far so good for them. Up front, all is looking very good for two teams who we expected to be fighting at the front.
Yeah, so the only main team that we think that they're probably missing is the Red Bull Esports team for company, but they're on their way through the field as we've discussed. But I'm sure the Lazarus team will probably be quite interested to know whether Jota are going to be under investigation or facing any kind of penalty, because they obviously need to know whether they can be as bold in return if they get the opportunity, or if it's worth just possibly sitting behind them if they're going to be facing a penalty and then taking the win on time rather than on track. But nothing through yet from the stewards as far as I can see.
Team Highlands Racing on see another team that's just down the field at the moment, down in 14th place so far. So we'll keep you up to date. You can see the order across the top of your screens at the moment, and as you can see down the bottom of your screens, the Pro Team registration for the Autosport Invitational opens on Monday. So if you're a Pro Team and you're not, of course, in this series, there is a chance for you to qualify at that Invitational. Only one team will go through, so do be well prepared for it, and you can sign yourself up for it on Monday. Okay, let's get back to the racing then, just coming out of the chicane and back onto that Mulsanne straight once again. Of course, our two leaders away and clear out front at the moment, and then we've got our the TX3 Solar Vision Racing are in 4th place, and then we've got Fast Races Forza in 5th, Red Bull Racing are 6th, Lightspeed Esports are 7th place. This is the battle for 10th place. We are on board with Pashura Motor Center Esports at the moment, so they are under a little bit of pressure at this stage as we now just head up towards Indianapolis. This lap number 3 of 5 now. Behind them, that looks like Rise Motorsport, I believe, who are in chase. So we haven't talked much about them, but it's a close battle down the lower order of the top 10. now go back to our leaders. In fact, here is Jota and Lazarus.
Yeah, so just want to attract the viewers' attention to the top of the screen. You'll see the timings there, which shows time penalties from presumably going outside the track boundaries. So they'll be added on to the end of the race time. So although they may finish there on track, as far as my understanding goes, that will then be added on, so they may drop down there. But it looks like we've got our first penalty to be announced.
Yep, Fordzilla have picked themselves up a 5-second stop and go penalty. So that is a disaster for Fordzilla, unfortunately. So the stewards have seen something that they are not happy with, and Fordzilla are going to have to serve a 5-second stop-go penalty. Real shame for them, but unfortunately the stewards have seen something that they are not happy with. They're running in 9th place at the moment, so they would have been picking up a decent haul of points. Well, they would have been picking up their first point with that one. 2 points they would have picked up with it, but unfortunately there's a very good chance they'll be finishing this sprint race with no points. Points go out to the top 10 in this one, so it is important to get a good result in this first sprint race.
Just to clarify for the viewers as well, the stop-go penalty is going to be on the inside of the final corner. You'll, if you're on board, you'll see the car pull over to the inside, stop for 5 seconds, and then get going in again as their penalty. You've got 2 cars side by side heading up into turn 1. That's always dangerous.
Yeah, never good, is it, to see that? But this is the battle for 10th place. So Pashura, they're just losing a place at the moment to the number 85 car, unfortunately, which is Rise Motorsport. So we were talking about Rise Motorsport before we cut back to our leaders, saying that they're looking to work their way into the top 10. They now have done that with that move at the Dunlop chicane. So Rise Motorsport are moving up the field, and they are now up into 10th place, but with Fordzilla having a 5-second stop-go penalty, that will essentially be them in a net 9th place at the moment. Already the penultimate lap of the first sprint race.
It flies by, doesn't it? It's not called a sprint race for a reason. But you say we've got little pockets of action going on. So obviously the top 2 look like they're broken away. We've then got a couple of cars battling here and there. So the train looks to sort of spread out a little bit. But for whatever reason, these 2 up front just don't seem to be separable.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to the last lap, isn't it? As a driver yourself, Harry, have you ever been in this? I'm sure you've been in this position before, where on the penultimate lap you're already in your head going through the move that you're going to make a lap later.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of this race, I'm sure they would have been analysing what sort of slipstream effect they can get as you see them getting very close into the braking zone. It's whether you feel you want to be the car in front or behind into essentially the final normal, if you want to call it that, sort of overtaking zone where you know you're either going to be able to hold off the slipstream, or if you want to be the car behind picking up that slipstream, because it's just that powerful. They would have been analysing that over the last 3 laps and this lap, the 4th, so that when we get onto the next one, we'll see who wants to be in front and who wants to be behind and who's going to make the right call.
It can be frustrating if you're at Jota, isn't it? Because if you want to be, sometimes you almost want to be the car behind at some stages, and they might want Lazarus at this stage to come by. They might be thinking, yeah, we're not going to defend, go by. We'll be in the position to retake you on the last lap. But either way, both teams putting in a fantastic performance. Let's hope we have a clean run to the line, but it looks like it's going to be either one of these 2 teams that are going to take the first win of the season and the 25 points that go along with it. This is the first of 5 rounds on our run to the super final. We're going to have 9 pro teams and 9 pro-am teams at next year's super final. 2 different classes fighting for their own prize funds, and this is the route to the Pro Series. 9 teams are going to make it into the Pro Series. 6 teams are going to come from this championship that we are following. This is round number 1 of the championship. 5 rounds to go, 10 races in total. This the first of them, and the teams at the moment trying to make sure they can get into the top 6 of the championship by the time we get to the end of it. All teams in this are fighting for $50,000 worth of prizes as well. The team who wins the qualification series will take $10,000 with it, and then they'll have the chance to go on and fight for the $100,000 that the pro class will be fighting for at the super final. Of course, at Autosport we will be getting our first 3 AM drivers to be 3 of 9 drivers in the Pro-Am class. So if you're heading to the Autosport show or you're thinking about doing so, do now, because you have a chance to race at Le Mans next year if you can be quickest. Harry, we had some good racing there.
Yeah, it's one of those difficult parts of the track where it's just ever such a slight kink rather than being a straight line, and you've got that bit of overspeed on the car in front and you want to go to the inside, and you're just hoping and praying that car doesn't turn across the front of you because they think it's not an overtaking opportunity, you're not coming through there. But thankfully there was literally just enough space to get 2 cars through there side by side, and that's a move completely for the Fordzilla team. Obviously we mentioned about their stop-go penalty, but I think it looks like they might have even picked up some more penalties according to the stewards.
Well, they haven't served their stop-and-go penalty, and as a result, that stop-and-go penalty has now gone from 5 seconds to 15 seconds. We did have a warning for Alien Motorsport as well for track limits, but Fordzilla really being heavily punished now for not serving that penalty. It is difficult, isn't it? The first round of a series, you pick up a stop-and-go penalty, they're going to know that that's going to completely ruin their race. Of course, only the top 10 get points in this race, so effectively that would have been them not finishing in the points, but it's just much better to serve that penalty as quickly as possible.
It is, although I'm trying to work out the understanding. I think that they may still be able to serve it on this final lap just before they cross the line, so they've got to pull over to the inside of the final chicane. We haven't seen them do it. My understanding is from the positions they were in, it doesn't look like they've done it because of where they still are. So maybe they're just trying to keep going as long as they can and then hope that they can pull a gap on whoever's in 10th place to make sure they can maybe just nick a point if possible.
Well, they're going to have to serve that penalty, and I really hope for their sake that they do that, because otherwise they're going to have an even bigger penalty awarded post-race, I'm sure. So Fordzilla, of course, there they are on track. They need to serve that penalty. All they are doing at the moment is affecting other people's races by circulating with a penalty that they should have served. Maybe they have just planned in their minds to serve it at the last corner and just get a feel for racing around the circuit in these cars. But of course, Harry, we did have a battle for the lead. That is still going on, and I think we're going to pick that back up now.
Yeah, we're running out of time for these two to sort out who's going to win this race. Currently, it's Jota ahead of Lazarus. It's been that way for a number of laps after that bold move we saw. I think it was on lap 2, and they've been inseparable since the start. Essentially, they pulled away from the rest of the field, despite running so close together. Not necessarily battled too hard, but we're literally running into a matter of corners before the end of the race, and the checkered flag is waving. And you see Lazarus just trying to force Jota into a mistake. See if they can just fake a move to the inside, get them off the racing line to then try and maybe get a switch back on the exit of these corners. But you can see they're trading paint that close.
Well, here we go. We're on board with Lazarus then. This the first of 10 races in our Pro Team qualification series, and Lazarus trying to make themselves the first winners in the series. Jota are ahead of us. They were the pole sitter, Jacob Bokert, in the car for them, but behind Lazarus are trying to get by. They are running out of options though. Through the Porsche curves we go for the final time then, through the double left now, and Jota a good run to them through there. They just pull a car length. Will that be enough for them to hold on by the time we get to the chicanes at the end? Lazarus trying to come back as they come out of the left-hander. Down to the chicane will go for the final time then. Jota, I don't think they're going to even need to defend here. They had such a good run through the Porsche curves. They looks like that they've just done enough to pick up the first win of the series. Through the final corner then, and it's going to be Jota who take the first win in the Pro Team qualification series, and they will go to the top of the standings with that win. Lazarus will finish in second place. A good race for them. 18 points on the board to start the championship. A close race further back as well. I don't know if Fordzilla were in that. They were, so unfortunately they haven't served their penalty, so the stewards will be dealing with that post-race. But it was TX3 who finished third, Red Bull Racing who finished in fourth place, Solar Vision were fifth, and then we had Fast Racers Forza next along after that. Lightspeed Esports were lower down the order of the top 10, as were Alien Motorsport as well. So we'll get the full standings on the screen shortly, I'm sure. But Harry, what did you make of the first race?
Well, starting at the front, Jota and Lazarus putting on a great display of, just going hammer and tong for those 5 laps. Sprint race, so not a lot of time to make the move stick. And we saw a mistake on the first lap we presume it's a mistake from Jota on the first lap to essentially give up the lead to Lazarus. They then made a bold move to get it back only a lap later. And then from what we saw, they didn't really look like they were under that much pressure. Obviously, they were very close together, but there wasn't any excessive defending having to be done. So as far as they're concerned, and Jacob Burkett can say he's done a fantastic job to bring home just a morale-boosting victory for the team.
And good the virtual drivers by TX3, 3rd place for them. That's a really good result, isn't it?
Absolutely. They're almost the unsung hero. We didn't mention them as being one to watch, so to speak, but they've sat there in 3rd, brought the car home without any troubles, and they pulled away from the guys behind. And it was always going to be difficult to match those top 2 because they were just in a class of their own. But yeah, a comfortable 3rd place at the end by the looks of things.
Of course, being the new format that we're running this year, it's hard to know which teams. Of course, some teams have huge backing like Red Bull, and we'll talk about them in just a second. Of course, immediately your attention is drawn to them, but there are these other teams. They may not carry some major backing or a major name sponsoring them, but they're still very fast drivers, and I think that was proven there.
Absolutely. These guys are here for a reason. They're all very good at what they do, and Forza Motorsport is their platform. They do an outstanding job in it. So although they might not have the backing of the big teams, they're still very skillful, and they're still able to pull off, not necessarily even shock results. They're able just to take it to the big teams and the big drivers and say, you might have the backing, but on the track, I can take it to you, and it's not a problem.
Speaking of course, the back in their Red Bull Racing champions last week in the Forza Racing Championship. So they're coming into this as favourites. Our Twitter poll, of course, you can catch us at Mans Esports, #LMES. Tell us what you thought of that race. But the poll we did do on that earlier, Red Bull Racing came out as the ones that you guys thought were going to win. They didn't do too badly, didn't they? They didn't win, but from 14th, they got 4th, and that was a much-needed result.
Absolutely, and I think that poll result would have been a little bit different if people had seen the starting order, of course, but it's always easier to lead from the front. But ultimately, they did a fantastic job. They would have been on a high after the recent results in the Forza Racing Championship. To come into this event and then qualify 14th, would have put them on a bit of a downer, but to then fight back through the way they did is going to be, again, another confidence booster for them. And for the whole team, it's not just that one driver in particular, Arne, done a great job, but it's for the whole team to take on board that result and go, yes, we might have our off performances every now and then, but we can still fight through to pick up some good points.
And you've done plenty of championships yourself, Harry. How good is it? How good does it feel when you get off to a good start in a series as big as this?
It's critical. So for me personally, it's always critical to make sure that at the start of a series or start of a championship, you don't necessarily put a target on your back. You just want to be in a good position. You don't want to have to keep looking up to people and thinking, I've got to continuously beat them just to get level on terms with them. I want to be the guy who's near the front or at the very front, so that you can control the championship from your end. You're not always chasing; it's in your hands when you're at the top. So that's key, and that's why they would have all been looking to try and maximise this first race. But of course, there's even more points on offer in the endurance race that's coming up in a little while. So again, a mediocre performance in potentially the first race could quite easily be overturned by a fantastic result in the endurance race, and then by the end of the evening, we're looking at a team who finished mid pack in the first race, leading the championship potentially. You never know.
And Raging Dragon, of course, Team Highlands Racing, not the best start for them as well. Fordzilla as well, of course, with their penalty. How do they come back from this now? What do they need to do in this endurance race? Not just on track, of course, we all know getting a good result, but mentally now, what do they have to do?
They've got to put the race behind them. That's the only thing they can do. They can't dwell on it and look at, oh no, that person took me out, or that person caused our race to be not as ideal as we would have liked it. So you can't let it play on your mind. You've got to keep moving forward. You've got to look at the next race as another opportunity. The only caveat for them is by having a poor first race, they do, as far as I'm aware, get to start near the front for the next race. So they're in a good position for the race that's got the most points available. They've just got a very difficult job to hold on to it, as far as I'm concerned.
Of course, just had our tweets coming in there. You can tweet us at Mans Esports, #LMES. We'll get those up on screen throughout the evening. The team just tweeting in there saying, of course, that's their first ever race completed, made history. They want Ford at Le Mans, of course. It would make a lot of sense to have Ford at Le Mans battling for a win there. Strange night for them, racing the Ferrari. But first race is done. Of course, they didn't get the start that they wanted, but this is a long series.
Yes, and it's experience that counts. You can never account for the experience of what it's worth to you as a driver and as a team. Now, you go into this first race and think, yeah, okay, we didn't have the best race, but we've got the experience of racing in this kind of environment with these amazing drivers and teams around us. So they've only got themselves to look at to be able to take things forward, but they've now got some experience to rely on moving forward into these future races and events.
Fantastic stuff, isn't it? Any other surprises for you? Not good, but maybe bad as well? Were there any teams that you expected maybe a little bit more from that were a bit quiet?
I think it's too difficult to say. After the first 5-lap race around Le Mans, 20 minutes long, it's difficult to make a massive impression. In such a short race, we've got a longer race coming up. That'll play out over a longer period of time. We'll have a pit stop thrown in there for good measure as well. Possibly even new drivers coming into the endurance race compared to the sprint race. But for me, I think it's too early to judge anyone on that first performance. There might have been a few nerves going around. It's easy for that to be the case. In such a climate as we are, where you're fighting not just for positions and points, but money. Ultimately, that's what these boys are here to do, is to make sure they can try and win and get as much money for themselves as possible. So you've got that extra pressure riding on you, but we'll see how they get on.
Well, let's have a look at the results for you. Let's confirm that now. All our post-race checks have been done. So Jota Esport lead the way then after the first race. 25 points for taking the win. Lazarus second. Virtual Drivers by TX3 rounding out the top 3. Red Bull Racing Esports, a good recovery for them. Solar Vision Racing have got their campaign off to a very good start. Likewise, Fast Racers, Forza there in 6th place. Lightspeed Esports, they did a good job to finish 7th. Alien Motorsport picking up some points there in 8th place as well. VP Gaming DE, 2 points for them. Fordzilla with a point, as did the remaining teams. Jean Lacey Esports Academy, of course, fairly new to esports, their second year. They finished in 11th, and we had Legion of Racers, Pashura Motor Centre Esports. We saw them in a little bit of trouble throughout the race. Likewise, Raging Dragon Esports, Rise Motorsport, Team Highlands Racing, problems for a few of those teams down the back, but points all on the board there.
Yep, they've all got a point under their belt now, which is great for them. Again, it's drawing attention to the fact that they may have finished further down the field than what they would have liked, some of the teams, but it does mean they get a better starting position for the endurance race, so where there's more points available. So it's quite easy to turn that deficit into a positive after the endurance race. But obviously, it's an hour-long race for them with a pit stop thrown in. It's a lot more than just 20 minutes of hard and fast racing. There's a tactical game to be played there, and we'll see. Ultimately, it's going to be who's done the best preparation, who's prepared for this in the best way possible to take into account all the scenarios they might find themselves in. Whether they're going to have to be overtaking, defending, leading from the front and driving off into the sunset. One would hope, but it's never that straightforward. So we'll just have to wait and see. But there's a lot of things still to play out, I think, for us to keep an eye on.
Well, it was a fantastic first race. I believe we're going to have some replays to show you just to refresh your memories of what happened. That's going to be coming up very, very shortly, because there was some fantastic racing, fantastic battles for the lead as well, particularly with Jota and Lazarus.
Yeah, it's always great to see overtaking going through the field, but especially at the front. That's where most people's attention tends to be. As much as we shouldn't not look at the overtaking down the field, it's always great to see it. But at the front, that's ultimately where the fighting we want to see is, and those boys delivered a great job.
Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Le Mans Esports Series Pro Team Qualification Series. This season number 2, the road to the Super Final, has officially begun. We already have 3 drivers in the books who are going to be competing in the Pro-Am class from our first Rivals mode contest on Forza Motorsport 7. There'll be more of those coming up, and we'll run through that a little bit later on, just to remind you of how you can get yourself to the Super Final. This is to get 6 teams in the Pro class, 16 of the teams competing for 6 places at the end of 5 different rounds. So if you have just joined us, welcome. We're going to take a very short break now, and we'll be back in just a second to prepare for the endurance race. Welcome back to the Le Mans Esports Series Pro Team Qualification Series, this round number 1. 16 teams fighting for 6 places to race in the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. My name's Chris McCarthy, he's Harry Jacks. Of course, you would have seen us at the first Super Final. It was a fantastic experience, wasn't it, at the Super Final? I can't wait to go back there. I'm sure you feel the same, Harry. And after watching the first Super Final, of course, we had loads of people, not only in the tent, but watching online. You can see how much people want to now get into this series. There's a lot more interest around it. The competitiveness just to get to that Super Final has risen in huge numbers.
Absolutely, I say the fact that we're opening up the doors to more avenues to be able to qualify for the Super Final is great, and I say it is just a growing franchise essentially. So we'll be looking at how they get on, but I think we've got a few mentions from the social side of things to see how people have been looking at that first race.
Yeah, let's have a look then. We can see AMR Diesel there saying solid job by LSEM. Lawrence grabbing the first point for the LSEM team. Of course, that is the Lightspeed Esports team. Always happy to see the community guys doing well. Let's talk about those community teams, because we do have a handful of them racing. The difference between those and the other teams is just they haven't got the backing of the other teams. I almost talk about them, they're almost like privateer teams, haven't they? But they're focused solely on racing Forza, so they come in to this very well prepared. Absolutely,
that kind of message is great for those drivers to see, because they're not probably thrust into the limelight as much as the bigger teams and the bigger drivers, but to then see a performance that might have gone under the radar a little bit be called out and praised on social media is great for them to notice that what they are doing, as much as it might not be at the very front, they are still achieving in one way or another, and they've got fans out there who are watching and cheering them on, and knowing that although they might be essentially, like you say, almost like privateers in a way, and independent, there are people out there cheering them on and willing them on, and that'll be extra fuel in the tank for them to, not that they need it with money on the table of course, but it's always nice to know that you've got a fan base out there cheering you on at every opportunity.
And money, as you said, we talked about that. We also were talking off air earlier about the difference of how that money might be used between maybe some of the community teams and then some of the bigger teams. For those community teams, I know you said this earlier, for them, they can use this to get some equipment that will help them prepare even better for, say, the Super Final or going into Season 3.
Absolutely. It's the case of more expensive equipment doesn't necessarily mean it's better, but it just it can always look to potentially provide you a better experience almost.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you quicker. But it's not going to be a case of you spend loads of money and you're going to find a second of lap time. It doesn't work like that. But the feeling you get through using steering wheel and pedals to drive an esports car, it all plays a part on your ability to deliver. So it's crucial that they've got some equipment to be able to use, of course, and then the money that they're going to be winning is going to be adding up, so they can maybe invest down the line to have a better go, maybe next year or the year after. It's always about accumulation.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, as we said, we are partnered with the FIA World Endurance Championship, and 2 chances to qualify for next year's Super Final is going to be at 2 rounds of the World Endurance Championship in Sebring and in Spa as well. So if you're going to any of those 2 races, do come and find us and you can have a chance to get yourself on the grid for the Super Final. But coming up for the FIA World Endurance Championship soon, it's going to be Bahrain.
Good afternoon from Bahrain. World Endurance Championship cars are already on the grid, ready for the showdown. And it's going to be go! As they go into the first corner.
As you see there, he just opportunistic dive down the inside into turn 13.
And there's been contact. There must have been contact with the curb plate. Oh, and he almost forces the...
He's ready runs to gain up inside. Crosses through his lines and
World Endurance Championship, Toyota, Victoria.
Well, there we go. 8 hours of Bahrain coming up very, very shortly. Fantastic FIA World Endurance Championship. do much following of the FI1 Endurance Championship? No pressure, but
No,
say yes.
I'm not going to be like hunting with pitchforks if I say the wrong answer, am I? But it's not my main motorsport. No, following. No, for me, my main is Formula One. But of course, no, with doing this kind of thing, it allows me to branch out into other avenues of motorsport, which is great. Now, I remember being a kid and catching bits of the Le Mans back then. And when I was a child, I didn't really sort of understand fully what was going on. But at least I've still got that sort of reference from a younger age of at least seeing. I remember. I can't remember what year it was, but seeing that Mercedes backflip into the trees down the Mulsanne. I remember seeing that on TV as a child. And it's like, it didn't necessarily mean much to me at the time, but now I can look back at it doing in this position and think they're relatable now. It's crazy.
Don't you think the changes that we've made this year, having a Pro and a Pro-Am class, makes us even closer related to the FIA World Endurance Championship?
Yeah, I think anything to try and get as close to the real thing is always a good thing. You don't want to sort of be treading on each other's toes in terms of real world and esports. It's a case of they are two separate things essentially, but they should be able to work in unison. So to be able to bring the esports side of it closer to the real racing, and in terms of they get to qualify for these super final events and then go to the racetrack and perform in the final where the race is being held in real life. Now that is a major step. And again, as you say, now the introduction of Pro-Am and the pros side of things, having two classes essentially, again, relating it to the real stuff is, I think, easier for the viewer to be able to relate to themselves.
Because at this year's super final, shall we say, there wasn't a difference in the quality between what I guess we could have classed the pro and the what we would have called this year's Pro-Am teams, but there was difficulties for some of those teams where they were being teamed up with drivers from all around the world. Language barriers was one thing that they were having to use their phones and Google Translate to work out pit stops and so on. Having the two classes this year, I think, really makes it more level and makes each of those classes even more competitive.
Absolutely, making more competitive racing is what everything should always be about. It's bringing the field closer together, encouraging hard racing with multiple drivers. We've just seen that first race, two drivers romping off into the distance. The opportunity is there for all of them, under the same settings and scenarios, to be able to challenge each other. And then when you can keep condensing that, it just adds to the aspect, the viewership for me as someone who looks upon it and watches it and gets thrilled by it. It just adds to that element of excitement to me to be able to introduce another essential class of racing, essentially the same as what WEC has.
Well, keep your tweets coming in. We've got, I believe, some more coming up on screen for you now from Lightspeed Esports. Their mega job to bring home P7 in the sprint race on the reverse grid endurance, where our man will be running the number 7. So, as we said there, reverse grid, it's something we haven't talked a lot about just yet, but that tweet brings us very nicely onto the grid for the endurance race. As we said, it is going to be a reverse of the sprint race, and we'll get that grid up for you very, very shortly. So we can see this was, of course, Jacob Bokit. That was at the front row for the sprint race, and that was indeed the top two at the end of the race as well. We'll get that grid up for you in just a second. Before we do, actually, it gives us time to talk a little bit about what you think of the reverse grid aspects of the situation here. Of course, if you have an unlucky race, we had some incidents at the start of that last one. It gives you a chance to recover and get yourself back into the standings.
Yeah, second bite of the cherry, so to speak. But almost even better second bite because there's more points on offer. So I'm not going to say it's a tactical ploy to just crash out the first one and get on pole for the second one. Lovely stuff, but you want to be getting points on the board when you get the opportunity. You don't want to be playing a what-if game of, we'll throw away the first race and just concentrate on the second one, because if that second race happens and you get spun out of turn one, you think, well, that's an entire event wasted. So, but it gives them a second chance. That's what I like about it, is that it means that if you have a bit of an off race in the sprint race, you've got the opportunity to come back and still be in the championship by the end of the event. And again, it's like what we said about the competitive side of it, is that it's bringing the field closer together and making sure that there's always something to be fighting for. And you never know going into a race who's going to be winning, who's going to come out on top, who's going to end up with the most points after each event, let alone the championship as a whole. And obviously when we've got new drivers coming in for the endurance race, you've got drivers who've just done the sprint race up to temperature with the car. Now they're in the zone, they're going on to the endurance race. We've also now got drivers stepping in to do just the endurance race, not starting from fresh essentially, because obviously they've done lots of practice, but there is that element of just carrying on from where you left off, as opposed to jumping in the deep end essentially for the endurance race. So we'll have to see how those guys get on as well.
Yeah, we'll run you through the new drivers when we get round to that. As we said, there is some new drivers stepping in for this one. Throughout the series, you can do a maximum of 2 sprint and 2 endurance races as well. So we're not just going to have the same driver doing all the endurance and the same driver doing all the sprint, which I think balances it up nicely, right? It means drivers are going to have to do both probably at some stage, but they don't have to do both on the same evening.
Exactly. They're going to be looking to hone their skills in the fact that, as we mentioned at the start of the show, the sprint race really encourages sort of a more aggressive driving style. You've got to make your moves count. You've only got a limited amount of time to do so, a limited amount of laps. If you get one overtaking opportunity, you've got to make it count at that point in time. As you saw with the leaders, Jota saw the opportunity to make that move on Lazarus. Yeah. They took it and they went on to win the race. With an endurance race, you've got essentially 3 times as long to try and make any kind of move. So if you're not quite sure as whether it's worth the risk, you can always hold off and try again later in the race. Again, pit stop thrown in for good measure as well, so expecting at least one of those in this one. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to play that. Going undercut, overcut, whether you're in traffic, whether you're in clean air, it's all going to play a part, which is what makes it so exciting for us.
Yeah, it is. We expect about 9 laps is a full tank of fuel.
7 or 8,
7 or 8 we expect is when people are going to come in. That could change given where you are. I mean, I'm sure if you're at the back, if you're Jota, you might want to apply that pit stop maybe earlier, depending on how you're doing, of course, because as Red Bull demonstrated in the sprint race, if you get off to a good start, you can make places up very, very quickly, being a good start, of course.
Yeah, so even if you're starting down the grid, by the time your pit stop comes around, if you've had luck of the green, so to speak, in terms of rubber of the green, I should say, you might even find yourself towards the front of the grid anyway. So again, it's that being able to think on the fly, make your strategy call on the fly, not going into the race thinking, well, we're going to have to do this because we're starting here. You never know what's going to happen in those first 7, 8, 9 laps and where you might end up when the pit stop comes around. So we'll see how big a part it plays. I think it's got the potential to throw a few spanners in the works for a few teams who might think they're home and dry at half race point, but we'll see.
To remind you of the points for this one, increased points, it's 38 to the winner, 27 to second. Third place gets 23, fourth 18, fifth 15, 12 for sixth, and then it goes 9, 6, 3, 2 to 10th, and then 1 to the remaining team. So bigger points, bigger incentive, and a chance to either recover or extend your lead.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Jota or Lazarus, now you're looking at thinking we might be starting from the back, but the lead they managed to pull over essentially the rest of the field in the space of 5 laps. They've now got, I think, 15 laps to try and basically do 3 times as much damage to them. So for the rest of the teams, they've got to be looking at and thinking we cannot let Jota and Lazarus essentially get towards the podium. If they do, they're going to be looking so good already after this first event. And as we mentioned towards the beginning of the show, if you're going to be making that mountain, you don't want to make it any higher than it needs to be. If you're looking up and thinking, well, we've just about scraped into maybe double-digit points, and Jota are already on 40 or 50 points. It's like that's a long way to come back because it can change very quickly. But you don't want to leave it down to lady luck.
No, of course. You never want to play with that in racing, particularly in the Mans Esports Series. I think that first race demonstrated that the racing is going to be very, very close. To pick 6 teams out of those 16 to qualify through to the super final is very, very tough. And all we can do is put them all on track together and let them fight it out. There's going to be some big teams at the end of the day, though, that are going to miss out. But don't forget, we've got an invitational event at the Autosport Show in January as well, and the winner of that event will go straight through to the super final, and then there will be 2 wildcards as well, giving us 9 pro teams. I believe we're getting very close to getting this endurance race underway. As we said, it's going to be a reverse grid. We'll confirm that grid for you very, very shortly, so you can see who is going to be starting where. Predictions for this one, Harry, based off what you've seen in that sprint race. I know Jota and Lazarus showed themselves as the 2 runaway teams, but any other teams you think worth keeping an eye on for this one? It's, I think, going to be our first real look at the likes of Raging Dragon, Team Highlands as well, who were had a little bit of unfortunate luck. I know there was some others. I think Legion of Racers got caught up in a little bit of drama as well. So it's going to be our first real look at some of the remaining teams.
Absolutely, they've got the perfect opportunity to show us what they can do. They had a disaster of a first race, really. When you mentioned Raging Dragon Esports, they've been taken out essentially within the first few corners of the race. It's not ideal, and then from there they don't get to show what they can do. So starting on what we think is going to be pole position now, they'll be hoping they can get off to a clean start. Now, ultimately, that's what they want. They're banking on a clean start so they can then just focus on doing their race and then taking things come in their stride. Again, another team, Jean Lacey Esports, a massive name in the world of motorsport, Jean Lacey, and an esports team surrounding a name of a driver. You think that they've got to be good, haven't they? And I think they just didn't get the opportunity to show us what they're capable of doing. So again, they've got a great opportunity, and we'll see what they can achieve.
Well, we're about ready to get going, I believe. The endurance race is about to start. It's the first endurance race of the season. It's going to be 15 laps in total, 38 points for the winner in this one. Everyone scores points, and you really, if you've had a bad race, you really need to get a good result here to bring yourself back into play, because only the top 6 at the end of this 5-round championship will go through to the super final. So any second now, we're going to be heading down to the circuit, and we're going to have the cars going in towards turn number 1, and it will be the start of 15 laps worth of racing. The Le Mans Esports Series Pro Team Qualification Series, and the first endurance race of the season is underway as they make their way through turn number 1. I think that's Raging Dragon, is it, trying to go up the inside to take the lead, and I believe they have done so. They've run a little bit wide there, and it looks like Legion of Racers, I think we're on board with now, trying to get up the inside as they come downhill for the first time. Can't quite get through. We can already see Jota have already made 2 places at the back of the field. They've already gone up to 14th place. Legion of Racers we can see in 3rd place. We're looking at them at the moment now as they go through Tete Rouge for the first time. So we've got some teams that need a good recovery result there. Likewise, we've got some teams at the back coming through. Red Bull Racing I can see already up to 9th. Jota are up to 13th place at the moment, but we are looking at the 18 there, Legion of Racers, as we go down the Mulsanne Straight for the first time.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's told them that going 3 wide through the Dunlop chicane is a great idea, but they decided to try it anyway, and thankfully they've all just about managed to survive. Massive lock-up and a big move coming in there up the inside, perfectly judged by the Fordzilla team, still side by side, rubbing door handles, being pushed a little bit wide towards the tyre barrier, and I think they just clipped it, and that's lost all their momentum down this second part of the Mulsanne.
Well, hopefully they haven't picked up any damage, but Fordzilla there just trying to be a little bit too brave around the outside, going head-to-head with Legion of Racers. And I think is that the Pashura team that have managed to pick up the places and go up into 3rd place, as we are now looking at... let's have a look as they come down towards the second chicane. Oh, and almost contact there as they turned into the left. Legion of Racers there almost making a little bit of contact. I believe that maybe Pashura just ahead of them at the moment as they now come down the straight once again. It is Pashura Motor Centre Esports who have now made that place and gone into 3rd as a result. Good move there, but back down the field we can already see the likes of Jota, Lazarus and Red Bull working their way up the field.
Absolutely, lots of tire smoke into the hairpin and a bit of contact there, nothing untoward. There's a car off wide in the gravel, and everyone's going to have to shift over to the right hand side of the track to make sure they don't run into the back of it, as we're now going to go 3 wide again, as we've seen earlier how much fun that is.
Yeah, once again there, well, that was a little bit of contact, unfortunately, as we were on board there. I think Jota had a little bit of contact from behind, but 3 wide once again as they make their way down to Indianapolis. There you can see Jota caught on the outside at the moment, but all the cars line astern. The field nicely kept together here, unlike the sprint race, which spread out very, very fast. Oh, and big contact there at the back of the field, unfortunately. Now, we are on board with Solar Vision Racing, who have just made a little bit of contact there going into Indianapolis, caught out with a train of cars all slowing down. Red Bull have just gotten back ahead of Jota there, who we are on board with. So the heavy hitters are quite literally hitting into each other down the back of the field. But there is Jota trailing Red Bull at the moment, who are in 12th place and kind of getting swallowed up here by the likes of Red Bull Jota. and co was the likes of Lazarus. Oh, and a team off there, and cars spinning round, unfortunately. Big incidents going on there as we go through the Porsche curves, and Jota into the barriers. Contact there. Jota off into the grass, and it's all going off on the first lap of the endurance race here in the Le Mans Esports Series Pro Team Qualification Series, the first round where you can see everyone keen to make a quick start in this first endurance race, and it's led to unfortunate contact there, Jota being one of many teams caught out, Harry.
Yeah, disaster for them. We've got to hope that for their sake that the damage they've sustained isn't going to be too detrimental to the rest of the race. They have obviously decided to continue and not come into the pits to have it fixed. But it's not what they would have wanted at all. But obviously all the other teams are looking at that, and they're not going to be thinking, oh, it's great, they've been put in the wall, of course. But no, the fact that they're out of the running as there's a bit of contact and it's getting a bit tight through that Dunlop chicane again on the second lap.
Jota kept up their winning form in the sprint race, of course. Those guys won the LMP2 class at the last round of the FIA World Endurance Championship to move themselves up to 5th in that championship. That was over in Shanghai, and the esports team doing a good job, but running wide there. That's Raging Dragon, I believe, just running wide through Tech Rouge. Unfortunately, that's going to lose them some momentum going on to the Mulsanne Straight. This for the second of 15 times, and there we can see Raging Dragon under all sorts of pressure now as they come down the straight once more, just tucked in behind there. Let's see, side by side as we go down the straight. That's the Pashura Motor Centre esports team who are trying to get involved as well. Fordzilla in the background will pick up the pieces if there's any contact, and there you can see Fordzilla, just like they did on the first lap, round the outside of the chicane, and 2 for 1 it is now as they come out of the chicane. Fordzilla, I think that's second place there for them now.
Yeah, beautiful bit of driving. They were just assessing the situation between 2 cars in front of them. That's what was going to happen. They played it safe, got the switch back, and bravely gone around the outside of that first chicane like they did on the first lap. Just worth mentioning that the Legion of Racers cars picked up a warning for that incident on the first lap of pushing the Fordzilla car into the tyre wall, as he's still looking to make that move stick, holding it around the outside, but it's been cut across through the apex.
So we've got Rise is third in this queue. I believe the Alien Motorsport team are 4th in this queue then, as we now work our way out of the chicane, and indeed it is the Alien Motorsport team. The leaders look to have gotten away and clear, but the battle for second, very intense. Jota have began their recovery. They've got themselves up into 15th place now. Oh, I believe they're just about to confirm that position. So Jota up 1 place, locking up, going into Mulsanne corner up ahead there. It's almost like a replay of the first lap, but everyone gets through safely. It's Team Highlands Racing who are off the back of the queue here for second place at the moment, which stretches all the way back to Jota. Very, very close indeed, Harry, in the early stages of the endurance race.
Yeah, I mean, this is much more what I was expecting. You just get a slipstream train down that first half of the track, and then you come into the twisty part down the other side of it, and everyone's trying to overtake each other at pretty much every corner, given the opportunity. As there's more tyre smoke, more locking up going on. You just got to hope that someone's not going to misjudge it too badly and cause an entire field wipeout.
So the drivers who have come in for this race, driver swaps. Jean Aleti have put Santoro in the car. Lee has got in the car for Lazarus. Rama Maluna has come in for Legion of Racers. Rabu Lakava Okana has come in for Lightspeed of Esports. Schulzek has come in for the Pashura team. Robson De Silva in for Raging Dragon. Perry in for Team Highlands Racing. Other than that, it's the same drivers. So Jobson for Alien, Moraz for Fast Racers Forza, Molina for Fordzilla, Bokit for Jota. Then we have Arnu for Red Bull Racing, Takaya for Rise, McDonald is in for Solar Vision, Augusto for Virtual Drivers, and Ackerman is in for VPGaming.de, Harry.
Yeah, just been watching Jota make up another position, so they're up to the 14th now. Again, brave of the driver to try and make a move around the same part of the track that, of course, caused the incident on the first lap. So no harm done this time round. And again, just another notification for you guys watching at home, Rise and Fordzilla both given a warning for the contact earlier as well.
You see down the bottom of your screen details of how you can get yourself to the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. If you're not in this series, you still can qualify for the Pro-Am class. You can do that through the Rivals events, which are taking place online. The next one starting very, very soon. You can also qualify at the Autosport Show as well as one of 9 AM drivers, and at Sebring FIA World Endurance Championship race, and at Spa as well. But if you want to be one of the 18 pro drivers in the Pro-Am class, you can do that through the Rivals Hot Lap events on Forza Motorsport 7. We already had our first one, so our first 3 drivers have already been confirmed, but there are still 4 more opportunities to do that, and you can get yourself on the grid. So do look out for more. Head to our website, lemornesports.com, for more updates. But here we have Red Bull Racing trying to work their way up the grid, Harry.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on the Lazarus team. They're up to 5th place already. So obviously we mentioned them at the start of the race, them and Jota being the two main teams from the first race. How would they fare? They're having completely contrasting races at the moment. Lazarus up to 5th already, as we've got some overtaking or attempted overtaking going on. That is the Lazarus car just latching on to the back of them. So they looks like they've got a great run out. They'll be picking up the slipstream if they can on the bunch of cars in front. A little bit of weaving to try and break that slipstream if they can. But side-by-side action behind between the Raging Dragon Esports team and Lazarus. Although it looks like Lazarus have made another position. They're into the top 4.
Yeah, so they've just gone past Raging Dragon there. So Lazarus moving up well there. You can see the Raging Dragon team. Robson De Silva has gone in the seat for them for this one. But just ahead is Lazarus, who are staring at a 2nd place here at the moment. They've got the likes of Alien Motorsport just ahead of them as they now come down the Mulsanne straight once more, and we can see the number 2 car there. That is the Raging Dragon Esports team. And just ahead, Lazarus are now side by side with Alien Motorsport as they go into Mulsanne. That's brave. They're going to go for the outside, but they're going to try and be very brave, and they hang on. So round the outside of Alien Motorsport there, Lazarus, a very good move, that, Harry.
Absolutely, confidence in both those guys for each other, essentially. Lazarus trying to go around the outside, hoping that they wouldn't be completely run off the track, and of course Alien Motorsport playing ball and not letting them have the position, but playing fair, which is ultimately what we like to see. As Lazarus, what's up into 3rd now, up onto the podium, and we're not even 3 laps into this race. Surely they're in for a shout for a win, aren't they?
Yeah, well, Fast Races Forza are just ahead of them now, and then it's 2 seconds, as you can see at the top of your screen. We have got the gaps. 2 seconds it is then to the race leaders. So Lazarus are moving up the field nicely here. Here is Jota a little bit further back, who are just outside the top 10 at the moment. They are in 13th place, so mixed fortunes for the teams who finished in 1st and 2nd in the first race. Leading the race is the Pashura Motor Center Esports team. They are 2 seconds clear at the moment from Fast Races Forza, but Fast Races Forza are being caught fast by the Lazarus team.
Yeah, Pashura, it's important for them not to get distracted by the progress of Lazarus coming through the field. They've got to just focus on doing their race at the moment, and if they end up getting caught, then so be it. They can't get hung up on the fact that they're going to potentially be caught by Lazarus. But unfortunately for Jota, I think the damage they've sustained earlier on in the race is just wreaking havoc for their car's ability to get around this track. So it looks like their progress is going to be somewhat stunted. But it's a long race, still a long way to go, and anything can happen.
Well, Pashura Motor Esports, as we said, they are a Polish community team racing in the championship. Great to have them with us. They narrowly missed out on the super finals last year. As you can see, they've come back more prepared and determined than ever, but that was Raging Dragon getting it all crossed up out of the final corner there. That's lost their momentum onto the straight. Red Bull and Fordzilla are trying to come down the inside. So, and Red Bull have spun. Red Bull there got sandwiched in between Fordzilla and Raging Dragon, and Red Bull Racing facing the wrong way now on the start-finish straight. Well, Harry, what did you make of that one? Just looked like an unfortunate incident to me.
Absolutely, I can't disagree with that. I think the Raging Dragon Esports team car might have a bit of damage, which is making it a bit of a bucking bronco at this point of the race, where it seems to be a bit difficult to try and tame. And it seems like, we saw them line up the rear wheels coming out the final corner. That's what caused the crash later on into turn 1, essentially, by making them 3 wide. There's almost another bit of great optimistic driving by the Fordzilla guys. Now, 2 cars battling ahead. They've seen that unfold and they've taken action to try and pass both of them at the same time, like we saw them do earlier in the race. So, good move on their part, and we'll have to see if the stewards have anything to say about that, though.
Well, it's all going off here at the first round of the Pro Team Qualification Series. We're looking a little bit further back with Jota. We've had a change of lead, though, up ahead. I think the two leaders are battling away at the moment. There is Jota there just making a move, and a good move that was at the chicane to put themselves up into 11th place. They go past the Jean Alesi Esports Academy team, so good move from Jota, and now getting ever closer to the top 10.
Yeah, bold move. I say nothing wrong with that. I think the cars just sort of came together as the Jean Alesi Esports car trying to turn in, just found another Ferrari next to it, so unfortunately had to bounce off wide. I think the Jota car's got the bit between its teeth now. It's had that first lap accident and it's just going hell for leather. There's all still to fight for. Every position's worth points, so they're going to keep fighting on, seeing how far up the grid they can get. But it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, as you mentioned, it looked like the Pashura car sort of lost the lead, almost gained the lead back. So we may see soon some battling there, and also the joining of Lazarus, I'm sure, isn't too far away.
Well, here we can see there's Pashura, and there you can see coming into view now are the teams in second and third, and it's Fast Racers Forza still in second, and then in third place is the Lazarus team trying to close in. That gives us a good view of how far it is between them. The gaps are across the top of your screen. I wonder, are Lazarus just being patient here? Are they just sitting in behind Fast Racers Forza, letting them do the hard work and then going for a move once we get to the leaders? As I say that, it looked like they're about to try and line up a move into Indianapolis, but they fought the better of it clearly. What would you do if you're in the Lazarus car here? You see you're closing in on the leader. Do you stick behind Fast Racers Forza, or do you want to be the one leading the attack by the time you reach the Pashura car?
I think they want to be the one. Oh, got a car into the walls at the Fordzilla car.
Oh, and they've reversed out. Well, that looked like they'd reversed out into the path of oncoming traffic, and I think everyone was just about able to avoid them, but close call that.
Yeah, you never like to see cars going into that wall in particular. It's certainly sort of an abrupt angle for it to stick out, and it's so easy to sort of just run a little bit wide. The car gets hooked over on the AstroTurf on the exit, and then you can end up in the wall. And unfortunately, though, if you're going to try and back out of it, you've got to make sure that there's no other cars coming and causing another crash that way, so they may find themselves in trouble as well.
I can see Fordzilla have dropped all the way to 15th place, just ahead of Team Highlands. So this is Lazarus. What we were talking about was if they were going to stick behind Fast Racers Forza. We're not a million miles away from a stop, but it looks like very shortly, Harry, we're going to have 3 for the lead, and getting all out of shape there for Fast Racers Forza. That's opened up the door, and Lazarus are going to help themselves to second place.
Yeah, beautiful bit of driving by Lee there. He saw sort of the Pashura car originally got out of shape into the final chicane, and then I think that sort of played a secondary effect on the other car there. Is that the Alien Motorsport car, is it?
Yes.
Yes, I think they also got a bit crossed up, and Lee saw it happening, has done the sort of over and under, if you will, in terms of sort of crossing the line behind him and got the drive out the corner, made the move stick, and now he is the one to chase down the leader and potentially take the lead of the race.
Yeah, it's Fast Racers Forza, in fact, isn't it? It's
yes.
Alien who are just in chase, isn't it, in 4th place there. Alien have kept themselves in with a shout here. They've been fairly consistent all evening. Of course, they are former FRC champions, so they know how to win these things. They had a big pool of drivers to choose from as well. 15 drivers racing in Forza, which is never a bad thing, isn't it, to whittle that down. But they're doing a job there in 4th place. I don't think they can be discounted to fight for the lead here. They've still got a chance if it all kicks off up ahead.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned a little while ago, we've got the pit stop window fast approaching within the next number of laps, so again there's a bit to play with there. But ultimately, these drivers have got to be clever. I think a lot of them are probably going to realise that Lazarus car is absolutely rapid at the moment, with Lee behind the wheel. So they may even be, if they're in the mid-pack, it would be a case of let that car through and just try and follow it through the pack. Don't necessarily try and fight it too much and get yourself into an accident that you don't need to be involved with. Because sometimes you've got to sort of almost be the bigger man, except that you're probably not going to be able to beat that car over the course of 15 laps. So you can almost let them through, just try and tag onto the back and let them drag you through the field and see where it ends up getting you. But as I say, it's hard to look past Lazarus for a win now. But obviously they've still got to make the move for the lead, which we're looking forward to majorly, but we'll see how long it takes for that to happen.
Well, we saw Red Bull Racing spinning earlier through no fault of their own, it seemed. They are now in 9th place. We've got just behind them Legion of Racers, and Legion of Racers I'm sure will be keen to get one over Red Bull Racing here. Either that or they'll want to tag in behind and see if they can work together, but they're just trying to fill the mirrors there, aren't they, as we approach the braking zone Mulsanne of the Red Bull car. I think is that Jota just ahead of them then. in 8th place. So Jota with a car that seems fairly wounded, still not doing too badly. They're slowly coming back into this.
Absolutely, and as we've mentioned a number of times over this event so far, that this race is every position is worth more points in the sprint race. So every position you can pick up is so much more valuable than if you would have done it in the first race. So that's why it's also important that despite the crash and the accident on the first lap and the damage they've sustained, to keep pushing on to every single position. So we're not even a third of the way through this race essentially yet. So there's still a long way to go. They're already up to 8 from the back of the grid with the incident in mind. So again, a long way to go for them to still keep on making up more positions if they can.
Well, let's have a look a little bit further back then. We can see the VPGaming.de team. This is their first time competing in the Le Mans Esports Series. They are the Project Cars 2 World Champions this year. So that crossover, can it be difficult, Harry, even coming in as champions in Project Cars 2?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to learn essentially the physics of the game and how it works. Pedigree from another game is absolutely great. You can come into it and go, we're champions in this other motorsport series. It can put almost like the frighteners on for other people, saying, oh no, they must be good to have done that. But again, for them individually, they've got to learn how this game plays, and it will be different to another racing game. They've got to learn how the cars react, each individual car, learn the tracks and the way they operate, and work out strategy, of course, because obviously strategy and the way you play out a race is different pretty much through across every racing game out there. So for these guys coming over to Forza, it's a great way for them to get stuck in and show these guys what they can do coming over from another platform.
And how hard is it to reevaluate your expectations? If you're coming over as champions, immediately VP Gaming are going to go, we want to win this thing, but do you almost have to be sensible in your approach and your expectations when you're coming straight over to another platform?
Yeah, sensible and I think respectful to your opposition. They're champions in this game for a reason, and if you're going to come over from another platform and expect to be able to take the fight to them straight away, I don't think that's really appropriate to be doing. So they'll have to learn their craft, fight their way through, and then eventually I'm sure they'll be right in a position to take it to the big boys essentially on this game and see what they can do.
I think it just shows the interest in how much it's grown in such a short space of time in the Le Mans Esports Series. Our first ever super final was only a few months ago, and here we are. We've got all the big hitters in esports now fighting for a place next year on the grid. And is this going to be a change for the lead? Oh, Pashura being very brave around the outside there. Little bit of contact with Lazarus. Lazarus almost seemed hesitant to make the move down the inside. Of course, a big straight follows the chicane. And will this move now be complete, Harry? They're going to come down the outside here. Pashura fighting as hard as they can behind Fast Racers Forza and Alien Motorsport, both trying to get themselves into play and pick up a place as well. You can see Fast Racers Forza, looks like Alien are having a little bit of pressure of their own, but Pashura are not going to give this up. Oh, drifting through the chicane. They run a little bit wide mid-corner. Lazarus take the lead. Fast Racers Forza into second. Pashura dropped to third. Well, you can't say they don't go down without a fight.
No, absolutely. It was a little bit overly ambitious, I think, from the Pashura car to try and hold it around the outside. Credit to them for trying, but it was never going to work, and that's Lazarus back into the lead now of this race. It's like, what can you say? Now, they come from the back of the field and they're now leading the race already. They're still not home and dry, of course, so you can see the car right behind them already. So there's a whole host of cars behind them by the looks of it, hunting them down. So that's going to be interesting to watch. If they can maybe break away, if possible, that'll be ideal for them. But for us, we want to see them just stay within that slipstream range, and hopefully these guys can all take the fight to them for the rest of the race as well. Yeah,
well, virtual drivers are amongst the teams behind. As we said, Alien Motorsport are in there as well. They're also just behind Rise Motorsport as well, also within this top 6. So those are the names all in this battle at the moment, and a big drift from Fast Racers Forza there. I think that was getting all out of shape. Alien Motorsport didn't know where to put themselves behind that, and now into Arnage we go. That was a good hold, if anything else. Impressive.
Absolutely, that was incredible. You thought there was no way that car is so far past the angle of recovery. It was never going to be pointing in the right direction as the camera switched through, but somehow he's managed to hold on to it, and if that doesn't drive the day, I don't know what does.
Of course, if you want to have your say, head to at Le Mans Esports, use the hashtag LMES, let us know what you think of the race. Who do you think has been the most impressive team and driver today? Get in contact and let us know. and I'm sure we'll try and read out as many messages as we can, both throughout the race and afterwards as well. Through the Porsche curves we come, though, some battling going on further down this top 6 here, who are all fighting for the lead. All of that commotion on this lap seems to have given Lazarus a bit of a break now as we approach the pit stop window. We could see people in as well as short as next lap.
Potentially they'll be sort of analysing where they are in terms of this race as it's gone on, whether they feel that they're faster than the car in front of them, being held up because they can't make the overtake, whether they feel that they're actually in a bit of danger, being surrounded by so many cars that are so sort of eager to make positions. They might find themselves sort of just trying to duck out of that battle for a lap or two, get the pit stop over and done with, have a bit of clean air, and hope that they come out in front of those cars who then pit later. Or it can work, alternatively, they can try and stay out and hope other cars pit before them and then make the most of a lighter fuel load, of course, for the remaining lap or two that they might get away with before they eventually run out. Of course, they need to make sure that they pay attention to that.
Got to give a shout out to Lightspeed Esports. I can see they're just in 7th place there with Jota just behind, so they're under pressure from Jota, who of course won that first race. So they're going to have a bit of pressure, but they're doing well. Lightspeed Esports, one of the community teams, doing very well. Clearly they've come in very prepared for this one. They've got Jota behind, and there are Lightspeed Esports at the moment. We can see Okana is in the car for them, has just come in to do this race in terms of today. Of course, will be one of the 3 drivers competing throughout the season. If you are just joining, all 16 teams have 3 drivers that they've selected for the series. Between them, they will complete the 5 rounds that we have. But a good job for Lightspeed Esports.
Absolutely, like you mentioned, they're coming as a community team. It's always seen as a bit of a disadvantage compared to a big proper team, essentially, for a lack of a better term. But they're holding their own. They're taking the fight to the big teams out there, and the big drivers out there, and all credit to them. They're in front of Jota, as we mentioned. They're getting on for halfway through the race. They can't be too unhappy with that, and they'll be looking forward, I'm sure, at this point to try and gain a few more points by the end of the race if they can. But this field is so competitive. It looks like every mistake is being punished pretty much. So one lap it looks like someone's got a second gap, the next lap we come round and they're side by side down the mole stand. So who knows what's going to happen.
Well, we do need to have a look up just ahead, because for 4th place it looked like Rise were about to take a position, and I believe we are picking up that battle now as we come down towards Mulsanne. I think this is Rise that are on the inside, and they now go ahead. We are on board with the virtual drivers by TX3 team, and that puts Rise up into 4th place. I don't think we've talked enough about them so far today. The Forza Racing Championship team, Rise Motorsport, doing a very good job. That was a good move. 4th place for them. Sometimes when you don't get mentioned a lot in commentary, it means you've either had a very bad race or in fact, a very good race, and that was impressive.
Yeah,
just that alone.
Absolutely. It can be a blessing in disguise. You're not at the peril of the commentator's curse if you're going under the radar. So.
Oh, but this looks like a fight back, is it, from virtual drivers, and I think they go back through.
Yep, so roles reversed again, so we're back where we were, square one. But it's great to see these guys going back and forth now. We don't want to see a car just passing and driving off into the distance. We want to see back and forth. Watch the guys attacking and defending. There are multiple parts of the racetrack. It's the way I'm sure they would have been practicing a lot, learning their craft as to where you can overtake, how to defend, where the grip is off the racing line if there is any. So it's all adding up, and they've got to be a bit clever, because if they can't make a move in a traditional overtaking place and then make a gap, the car they're trying to overtake you maybe repass them, as we've got a bit of a speed. Can he hold it? Oh. He has held it. Another one. Doing a great job of holding it.
What does that get from the judges? 10?
Well, I'm more concerned about the fact that you said we hadn't mentioned them, and now we have, and now look. So
I just wanted to say, actually, before we do reach any pit stops, I think the quality of the field is being shown. Oh, no! And it all lined up. That's 2 teams in. And what I was going to quickly say is how close the field is. Very close together, as the straights demonstrate. But 2 teams did come in. I didn't quite catch who they were. Alien Motorsport is one of them that has come in. And I believe the other one is Lightspeed Esports. So those... Oh, there we go. I hope that doesn't happen at Le Mans itself.
No, I think they'll get away with that one. But they've obviously taken the early stop option to try and get. I was going to say try and get a bit clear air, but they're coming together, so it's kind of redundant at this point. But they might be looking to work.
There we go.
They might be looking to work together. They've got fresh tyres. Yes, the car will be heavier with fuel, but they can maybe try and work together, slipstream together to try and pull themselves forward in time, essentially. So when the other guys pit, they'll come out in front of them. But it's up to them. They might just fight amongst themselves on this outlap and then find themselves behind all the cars that are still yet to pit. So it's difficult to call.
What would have been your call? Because
you put me on the spot there, haven't you?
Yeah, well,
I would be in the Lazarus car up front by 2 seconds, just chilling. I think. You can pick whenever you want to pit. It's not going to make too much difference, I don't think. But
do you prefer to come in early, or do you tend to?
I'd do anything I could to try and get free air, I think. To focus on your driving. You haven't got to worry about anyone else. You can drive your racing line and make the most of it. So yeah, you might pit a little bit earlier and get a full tank of fuel, which might slow you down a bit. But the fact you'll be able to race as well as drive as well as you know you can without having to worry about other cars will maybe make up for that and some. So that would be my preference. We'll see how it plays out for these guys as the pit stops fully unfold over the next lap or two.
I have to say, I thought the endurance race would be the time where we get loads of time to talk about the teams in depth and the series itself, but it's been a fast one to keep up with, isn't it? 8 laps in already, and it's been, if anything, more chaotic than the sprint race. In a good way, though. I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to explain that to people, but how that's managed to turn around. But it's great. You say it's great for us here. It's great for everyone watching at home that these guys are so competitive that we can throw them in a sprint race or an endurance race, and they race just as hard in whatever they're faced with. So, adding in pit stops, as we mentioned, just another dimension to the racing, I think. You see, a whole 6 cars there in one shot, and we're more than halfway into the race. These guys have all got to make their pit stop still, so there's no reason why this can't continue up until the checkered flag.
Well, as we can see, get in touch with us on Twitter, #LMES. We're about halfway through, so let us know who do you think is going to take the win in this one. I'm not going to put Harry on the spot here. We want to get the thoughts from you guys. We'll get your messages up on screen throughout the race. Let us know who you think perhaps is coming up the order that can get a top 3. How are your team doing? Who are you cheering on for? Who do you think might win this race? Let us know on Twitter. You can also get us on Instagram as well, @Le Mans Esports, and that'll give you further updates to the remaining rounds in the Pro Team Qualification Series. Of course, the other ways to qualify as well through the Rivals mode on Forza Motorsport 7, as well as our chances to qualify at Autosport, as well as 2 FIA World Endurance Championship races at Sebring and at Spa as well. So you can let us know. $200,000 is the prize pool for Season 2. 50,000 of those dollars will be fought for in this qualification series, with the winner getting $10,000. Wow. They could have paid us more money.
Well, I don't know. These guys seem to be earning every dollar they're going to make at the moment, as we've got more cars coming in. Oh dear.
Big mistake there. Now, was that Fast Racers Forza that looked like, or was that the TX3 team maybe? Did they make it into the pits? That is the number 73. That is the TX3 team there. Now, it looked like that they wanted to stay out maybe for some clear air and then change their minds again, and just about made it to the pits.
It's either that or they got so caught up in battling that they've not necessarily forgot, but it's just slipped their mind that they needed to pit for fuel. Because I think, I'm not going to say going an extra lap would make you run out, because we can still see cars going round, but it looks odd to say the least as to what happened there.
Very interesting decision there. Okay. Well, I think you're exactly right. I think they thought, oh wait, we might run out of fuel if we don't keep going.
I think the stewards might have to look at that for sort of, not necessarily an unsafe pit entry, but just not doing it correctly, essentially. They're cutting across the grass in the chicane. I don't think they made up any positions by doing so. There's only a hindrance to them, but still a bit messy, unfortunately, for them.
Well, we'll keep an eye out what the stewards will say. We're getting live updates to us here on the desk all the time, so we'll keep an eye on that and let you know. Now, this is always the phase in these endurance races where for a second the order gets completely bundled up and then it kind of works itself back out again. But Jota have continued. They are one of the teams yet to stop. That's simply because they must feel, I imagine how they're in a rhythm, they've got some clean track, and they want to just make use of that as much as they can.
Yeah, of course. Now, after their lap 1 instant, they've had to fight their way through for every position. I don't know if they've actually had any clear track so far in this race. So to be in the lead, essentially, yes, they haven't made a pit stop, but they can get a bit of clear track, get their head down, even if it's just for this 1 lap, to put in an absolute flyer and they try and overcut, those guys have already pitted. So I think they're around 8th position before the pit stop window came into play. So we'll see how they re-emerge after their pit stop. But so they're doing a good recovery so far. You know, it's difficult with the damaged car, of course.
Yeah.
But main thing for them is they've stayed out of incidents since, and they've not compounded their woes, so to speak.
Well, this is the number 73, so dramas have now ended for virtual drivers just about, but they are now under pressure from the Lightspeed Esports team behind. So the predominantly green car there is the virtual drivers by TX3 team, and then behind that is the Lightspeed Esports team. As we now make our way down the straight, you can see Lightspeed Esports looking left and right. Just up the road is the Bashura Motor Centre Esports team. That is ahead of the car we are looking at the moment. There you can see them just out of view. Lightspeed Esports are going to look to the outside down at Mulsanne, and they're sensibly, I think, going to stay in behind for the time being.
Yeah, that scrolling camera really gave us a good sort of insight as to just how close it was before they got the overlap of having their nose sort of alongside the rear bumper, so that they therefore couldn't then try and defend. They were just literally millimetres short, which allowed the defence to happen. Unfortunately, they're going to have to try again down towards Indianapolis by the looks of things.
And the very similar looking car to virtual drivers behind is Alien Motorsport. That's probably not just caught us out, but Alien Motorsport are closing in as well. And very tough corner there as they come through Indianapolis. That's where they're getting all out of shape under braking. It's probably one of the hardest corners on the circuit, considering how quick you're going by the time you get to it and you're coming into a braking turn.
Absolutely, you know, these guys will be probably running not a lot of downforce, to put it in, for a lack of a better term, in terms of just making sure they've got something to fight with in terms of attack or defence down the Mulsanne. So when it comes to slowing down, on being hard on the brakes, they've got nothing to push the car into the ground. It looks like we've got Jota into the pits, and I presume we'll also have the other car behind them, which I believe is the Rise Motorsport car coming in, which should see Lazarus return to the lead. But it'd be interesting to see where that Jota car comes out compared to the rest of the field.
Now they were, I believe it was 8th, if memory serves me correct. That is where they were before they pitted. We also have VP Gaming. I think they were yet to come in as well. This is Lazarus we are looking at now. Their lead not that big. There's Jota, so still in the pits at the moment, so they're certainly not going to be in the lead when they come back out, but they'll be looking, I'd say, to get somewhere near the top 5. I think that would be a sensible aim for them. So that is now everyone in and out the pits. There comes Jota, and in fact the leaders are not far ahead. That's going to be 3rd place, I think that is, for Jota. So Jacob Bokeh has done a fantastic job there, putting in some laps out front, and they've got the team up into 3rd place with an injured car as well.
That's an incredible piece of driving. That extra lap or two they've done compared to those cars that they're now around on, I guess it must just be the lighter fuel load. It's just paid absolute dividends for them. They might be on warm tyres, but obviously the lighter fuel load is counteracting that and some. So we'll see if they can push on maybe, or if they're just going to try and hold on to what would be a great 3rd place considering how this race has gone for them.
Well, here we go. This is Lazarus at the moment, leading the way as they were before the pit stops were made. So Lazarus retake that lead once again, having a very consistent run. Of course, they fought for victory with Jota. You see Tobin Lee is in the car for them. Now Jota, of course, came out on top in that first race. Will Lazarus come out on top in this second one?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the fast racers Forza car is holding on to their coattails quite well.
Yeah.
And we would have probably expected Lazarus, the way they come from the back to the front, to then get to the front and just drive on into the distance. But they're being well managed by that fast racers Forza car being driven by Moraes at the moment. So maybe they'll be able to launch an attack. Maybe Lee sort of just reined it in a little bit, and they'll say, well, we're in the lead, we haven't got to push too hard and risk a mistake. And I'm sure if he comes under any kind of attack, we'll be able to put their pedal down just a little bit higher. There's someone running wide.
That was Jota, I think.
Very deep into the braking zone.
Let's have a look. Yes,
it is the
that's
Jota
car. Yep, straight on. So, wow. Forgot there was a chicane coming up, perhaps. I'm not too sure. Well, what happened there?
Your guess is as good as mine, unfortunately. It didn't look like there was a car close enough to have made contact.
just got it all wrong.
Possibly maybe on the entry just caught, I'm not sure if there's a little curve possibly that they might have been able to clip, or if they just ran over the camber of the track. It's just lost the back end on turning. But it's caused them all sorts of problems. They're now back right into all that hard work that Boket's done has now dropped in pretty much to the back of that train, and they're all nose to tail now, so I'm sure fireworks will be going off anytime soon.
Well, I'd hate to say it was a lapse of concentration given Jacob Boket did the full 24 hours at this year's Super Final with a cast on. But we won't say why he had that cast on. Story for another time, definitely. But Jacob Boket, as you said, all that hard work now undone, and he's going to have to make those positions back up. So he's given himself some work to do, but that's going to make it an interesting watch for us, that's for sure.
Yeah, lucky he hadn't had enough work to do this race so far. For the second third or the final third of the race, I'll repeat my actions if I need to. Great for us, lots of action, but I'm sure he'll be kicking himself behind the wheel. But he's already shown himself this race. He's got the ability to get that car higher than where it probably should be with the damage it's got. So he knows he can do it. It's just whether he can get himself in the right sort of mental frame of mind to put that mistake behind him and redo all of his hard work again. If he does, then hats off to him.
Yeah, well, let's see what he can do. He was certainly stirring up a potential chance to fight for the win, but I'd say third would be a sensible achievement now. So it's Rise who are just ahead of him at the moment, but Rise themselves are pressurising the Lightspeed Esports team as well, and then we've got a battle going on just ahead of that as well, and down the inside that looks like a move there just ahead. Is that on the TX3 team? It is. So I think that was the Pashura team that were trying to go down the inside, didn't quite make it stick, or did they? Let's have a look now as they come across the line. It was very close. This has brought Jota further back into play as well, as we come up towards the Dunlop chicane on lap number 11. So all going off here for third place. Pashura at the head of it. TX3 next to Long Rise there are side by side trying to go around the outside there of Jota. So all going off here. We're on board with Jota. You can see TX3 just ahead of us on the inside as they come down the hill. This on lap number 11, and TX3 are going to get through to get onto the head of this trade. All sideways now as they make their way up towards Tech Rouge. Hard to keep up with every move going on, but we'll do the best we can now. Onto the Mulsanne straight we come. Who's going to make it to the chicane first?
Your guess again is as good as mine. No, they've gone through the Dunlop chicane. Someone's called Noah's Ark there, 2x2 through there, and they're still going 2x2 down the Mulsanne. It's going to be, you've got to be brave, but you can't afford just breaking that 5 metres later and then locking up and then causing a big crash and ruining races. We're going to go 3 wide down the Mulsanne, are we? Yes, we are. Why not?
Yeah, just about. There you can see Jota there looking as well. They're looking to the inside, just up ahead. They've gone 3 wide. I think that's Lightspeed Esports who are going to come through and go up a place. Looks like Jota have picked themselves up 2 places in that. So they've gone up to 5th. TX3 have gone down to 6th. Rise have gone down into 7th place. So a good run there for Jota, who have picked up a couple of positions out of that. Right place, right time. So trying to make places back as quickly as possible. We can see the Lightspeed Esports team are now 4th. They're just ahead of Jota, who are 5th at the moment. TX3, then it is Rise, then it is Alien Motorsport in 8th. Solar Vision Racing are 9th. Red Bull are 10th. We haven't talked about them a lot in this race. They've kind of kept themselves quiet since having that spin. Third place, just up ahead of these guys, is Pashura Motorsport, and then it's 5 seconds to our 2 leaders.
Yeah, I'd hate to say we put the commentator's curse on Red Bull Racing before this event even got underway, but I'd also claim that members of the public voted for them to be the favourite as well, so I'm going to blame them if I can. Yeah. So an unfortunate event so far for them. There are still laps to go, but for whatever reason, I presume it's damage. I think we saw them off earlier in the race. Damage has just, again, prevented their progress happening. They'll still be picking up points, which is the main thing for them, but it'll be a case of what if. I think they'll take away from this event if it ends the way it does, and it is at the moment. So they had the potential for so much more, but unfortunately weren't able to deliver it for a variety of reasons. But some great racing. And again, here comes the second stage of the comeback from Jota again.
Yep, Oxford's on Norwich they go. They're surely going to have a look to the inside. They do. Are they able to complete the move? Yes, they are. On Lightspeed Esports, they go down the inside. Lightspeed Esports are going to look for the switchback, but Jota, who we're on board with, are ahead at the moment. But Lightspeed Esports now retake that place. We go on board with Virtual Drivers by TX3, who are looking at the back of this battle. Jota are going to try the outside. Are they at the start of the Porsche curves? They are. They're going to be brave round the outside, but they're going to get run out. And helping themselves to 6th place there is going to be Virtual Drivers by TX3. So they go up to 5th, my apologies. Lightspeed Esports 4th. Jota are in 6th place. Then it is Rise in 7th place. Alien Motorsport are next along. So this queue of cars struggling to let go of each other at the moment. And this is all helping Bashura, who are still just up the road from this, in 3rd place.
Yeah, this battle looks like it's going to rage on until the checkered flag drops, and I wouldn't be surprised if it can carry on afterwards, to be honest. But no, they're doing a great job of keeping it clean. We've seen some great sort of, I like to call it the under and over, where someone goes up the inside, you let them take that tighter line, and then you sort of sacrifice the entry to get a straighter, narrower exit as you then get on the power earlier, drive back past them in a straight line. And again, it was the Lightspeed Esports car, I believe, that done that to the Jota car, and then Jota trying to go around the outside. And then by going around the outside, they then cost themselves another position by being a bit ambitious, as we've got some more moves going on through the Dunlop chicane.
Yep, that's Virtual Drivers by TX3, go round the outside, just what you were talking about there. So they now take that place away from Lightspeed Esports, but they're getting a little bit out of shape as we go up towards Tech Rouge here. Jota are 3rd in this queue, and then 4th in this queue is Rise. Alien are next along. Fordzilla, by the way, in their first ever esports race, are in chase of this as well. In fact, Solar Vision are the ones just behind, aren't they? So they're trying to close in at the moment, but we are now looking at Jota in 6th place as they make their way down the straight. It is Solar Vision Racing. They're getting closer to this. They're only 7/10 away from this battle. There they are. So Solar Vision can see this queue ahead, which goes as far as 3rd place. Alex McDonald will be hoping he can get a couple of places here as we go into the final few laps. And then behind that is the Red Bull car as well, and they're going to be hoping to maybe get towards the top 5 as we go into the final 3 laps of the race.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing some, dare I say, even more opportunistic moves from some of these drivers. The race sort of draws towards the end. You quite easily look at that picture and expect it to be the first lap with how close they are together, but it's not. It's lap 12 and they're still nose to tail. A good half dozen cars fighting amongst themselves, rubbing bumpers, scratching door handles is what we like to see, as long as they can keep it pointing in the right direction and it's clean from both sides. It looks like we've got a little bit of a breakaway by the Virtual Drivers car, Virtual Drivers by TX3 car. Just like it's got a better run out of the chicane, and they'll be hoping to build on that to try and just get away from the melee that is this battle.
Speaking of Fordzilla, by the way, they're just outside of the top 10. Legion of Races are next along, and then it's VP Gaming in 13th place at the moment. But this is the battle for 4th. 3rd place is just up the road, and then the top 2 still within arm's length of each other at the moment. So we will monitor that battle as we get later into the race, but for now this is where all the action is. It is the battle for 4th place on the track at the moment. It is being led by Virtual Drivers by TX3. Jota are then just in behind Lightspeed Esports, who are 5th, and Lightspeed Esports going a little bit hot in towards Indianapolis there. Are they going to be punished for this? It looks like they were debating a move down the inside of Virtual Drivers. They're going to be on the outside now going into Arnage. Will they get the switch back a 2nd lap in a row? Yes, they do, Harry.
Yeah, carbon copy of the previous lap, essentially, in terms of the exit. They managed to get the drive down nice and early, didn't spin up the rear wheels with the lack of that traction control, and now they're going to have the inside, although it looks like they're struggling on straight line speed, unless they're bump drafting around his outside, which he won't be pleased about. I don't want to call what's about to happen.
Oh, here we go. Well, into the Porsche curves we go. Virtual Drivers running a bit wide, looking for the cutback now. It's going to be Lightspeed Esports. Jota, who were giving Virtual Drivers a bit of a helping hand down the straight there, are caught in the middle of all of this. Riser next along. Then it is Alien Motorsport, and Solar Vision have now officially joined the party, which makes it a queue of 6 for 4th place in this race. We can see Red Bull not too far behind that, and Solar Vision make their first impact on this battle. They have now made a place. They've gone past Alien Motorsport, who dropped down to 9th in the chicane, and there is Red Bull in the background as well. So it goes as far as 10th place does this battle for 4th now.
Yeah, I wish this race would never end. It seems like every time we finish a lap, we add a car to the queue that's already there. So I mean, I'm not going to say it's asking for trouble, because these guys are very, very good at what they do, so I'm sure they've all got the ability to make sure they get to the end of the race cleanly. But, I mean, it's just mouth-watering. Look at all those cars that's waiting to pounce on each other. It's incredible.
Well, here we go. If you're in the TX3 car, you're starting to get quite scared at this point, because you're coming onto a very long Mulsanne straight where there's quite literally nothing you can do. And Lightspeed Esports will be hoping to get past and get away from all of this, because they've got Jota behind, who have Rise behind, who have Solar Vision behind. Red Bull, I think they may have made an impact on this battle. Yes, they have they? Let's have a look. No, they're still behind Alien at the moment in 10th, but certainly it looked like they were close to a move. And in the background you can see, actually, we're looking at Solar Vision. Red Bull behind are just trying to line up a move on Alien Motorsport. If we go behind this, you will be able to see next along. I think we are almost side by side for 9th place. So into the chicane we go. There you can see in the background, Red Bull have got through. So up to 9th.
Yeah, joined the party and instantly made a position up, which will be pleasing them no end after the race and, well, a couple of events they've had today. That could just be the little spark they need to just push on and possibly, aim for top 6, top 5 if they can. That'll be a solid result, I think, for them. But we've still got the rest of this lap and 2 more to go. And they've strung out a little bit. It looks like they might be coming under pressure again for that position they've just gained, unfortunately. So they need to try and stop squabbling between themselves at the back of this train and work together to move their way forward if they can. But everyone's fighting over every position, like we constantly say. Every position is worth fighting over, and they keep going for it, not really working together. Why would they? They're all against each other in terms of competition, but sometimes there's always a bigger picture.
This, once again, we can see, looking back from virtual drivers, there is Lightspeed Esports. Out of all of this, Pashura have a thanks to say, I think, to TX3, because Pashura were once just ahead of this. They're now about 6 seconds, I think, or something ridiculous clear. Mainly because, in fact, there they are. It's at them just up the road. So they're about 1 to 2 seconds ahead of this. So they've been given some breathing space, but it's far from over, I'd say, for them as well. So I'm going to go back on what I just said and say, if the battling continues, I think Pashura will be okay. But if these guys work together, then they'll be in a bit of trouble, as up to the Porsche curves, looks like Red Bull side by side with Alien.
Yeah, it looks like the elbows are coming out now in these last few laps. It's nearly a straight line, essentially, isn't it? They've gone a bit deep in there, Red Bull, so the over and under works once again. And they caught the gravel as well, which has halted their acceleration, so that's another position essentially lost. Although they started this lap, they were there already, they made it up, they've now lost it again. It looks like they've actually dropped off the back of the train that was the battle ahead of them, unfortunately. And they're running out of laps to actually close back up if they want to try and progress any further than what essentially is a battle for 9th at this point.
Down the bottom of your screen, you will see details of how you can qualify for next year's Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. If you like what you're seeing and you want to get yourself over to Le Mans to race at the 24-hour in the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final, then details across the bottom of your screen throughout the broadcast. And you can get in touch with us on Twitter, hashtag LMES. Let us know what you're thinking of the racing so far. Who are your early favourites for the championship? Which team has surprised you most? And what have you thought of our first broadcast for this Pro Team qualification series? Let us know. We'll try and get some messages read out before the end of the show. And visit us at lemansesports.com for more updates on how you can qualify for next year's Super Final. Right, back to the racing. Penultimate lap is about to start. There is Red Bull Racing. They now, having almost shaken off Alien, have a bit of a gap to close down.
Yeah, they'll be hoping that no mistakes happen over the next few corners and the slipstream doesn't play too much effect, so they can just get their head down and focus on catching those cars ahead instead of having to worry about defending, going offline, costing themselves time in terms of trying to catch the cars in front. I think they're going to be just about okay, but so these guys have pulled out what I think is probably going to be enough of a gap to see them through to the end of the race without having to worry about these two cars just following through at the back of the screen. So
onto the straight we go, and we've said this exact sentence many times. It's Jota lining up a move on Lightspeed Esports. It seems to be happening over and over again. Anytime Jota get past, Lightspeed goes straight back past. They're doing a very good defensive task whilst keeping the team ahead, which is Virtual Drivers by TX3, within arm's length.
Absolutely, no. It's so easy to have a car go past you get demoralised and then they make a few mistakes and drop off the back of them. But these guys have been going at it for pretty much the whole race. It's taking a moment to appreciate sort of the mentality these guys have got to be able to race so close and so hard for this period of time without mistakes coming out. We've got the stewards no feed in, no warnings coming up, no penalties being dished out for reckless driving or anything like that. So it's a testament to just how good these guys are.
Well, here we go. Jota once again looking left, looking right. They're going to be on the outside for the chicane now. Are we going to see them be brave enough to try? No. We're going to wait for the exit of the chicane and the run down to Mulsanne corner. Out of the chicane they come. Have they been able to draw alongside? Yes, they have. And they're going to pick up a tow, I think, from Virtual Drivers by TX3. So this could just be Jota Sport getting past Lightspeed Esports here. And I think indeed they have done so. So they are now ahead as we go on board with Lightspeed. And up a place go Jota now ahead for them. Oh, a little bit deep on the brakes, but I think they'll just about get away with it. It's going to be Virtual Drivers. Whilst we've been talking about this battle and battle behind, how it looks like Pashura are being caught here. 1.4 is now the gap. It was certainly more than that last time we checked in on it. So although it's not coming down significantly, it's being chipped away at.
It's enough to make them worry. They know that if they make a tiny mistake, wipes out half a second of the lead, they're back within slipstream range of the cars behind. That means they're going to be caught down the Mulsanne on the final lap, which is the last thing that you want. But that's what I love about this track. That move that Jota just pulled off, they've got the slipstream, they force the car in front to go defensive. They're off the racing line, they've got a tighter exit, so when Jota then get in the over and under, they can get on the power earlier, get the overlap essentially to then pick up the inside of the next corner down after they finish the straight. It's what works so well about this track, I think. Then we come into this section where you've got to be braver than anything to try and make an overtake, which doesn't seem to faze many of these guys, if any of them at all. It's just a great watch.
Really is indeed. Hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are. Fantastic stuff. This is only the qualification for the Le Mans Esports Super Final as well. This is the qualification series, so you can see really how much it means to these teams to get to the Super Final. They're fighting for it as hard as possible. Virtual Drivers have made a mistake out of the Porsche curves. Jota are going to go through. Lightspeed Esports are going to follow them through. Just a mistake there. It seemed just got the car out of shape, but didn't really see exactly how all of that happened.
Yeah, they've lost 2 positions as far as I can see. I think they just clipped at the yellow curves on the exit of the corner, which seems to sort of spit the car off at a really difficult angle. They've done really well to hold on to it and not lose it into the wall, but I'm sure they would take losing 2 positions over losing the front end of their car with 1 lap to go. They're still in a position to fight. Just very unfortunate that, but again, it's a little mistake that's corrected as he's gone very late on the brakes into the back of the Pashura car, pushing him wide. He's not going to be able to make a move there. Just got to hope the damage isn't too severe. So you can see the marks on the back of that Ferrari.
Yeah, well, that was of course the contact there with Lightspeed car. They're going to get 12 points still, finishing 6. So still a decent haul of points, isn't it? As we now make our way down to the Mulsanne straight through Tech Rouge we go. Just ahead of us is the Lightspeed Esports car. Jota have cleared off. They're now in chase of Pashura. So things have changed around very, very quickly as we are onto the last lap of the race.
Yeah, I realised I got my teams mixed up there, which it's not the first time. It won't be the last time I show you that. We've only got 1 lap. I'll still do it 3 more times. Yeah. But at the moment, can't forget about the Lazarus team out front. Tobin Lee, what a drive he's delivered. Second last on the grid, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's come through and dominated essentially. So fantastic from him. But back to the battle, that is really the one that's meaning the most, I think, in this race as we run towards the end. It's the TX3 Wesley driven car for Virtual Drivers by TX3. Looking at the back of the Lightspeed Esports car, which I've got right this time. So there we go, got there eventually. He's still within that slipstream range. He's not going to be close enough to make the move here. So this is the best part of the track to try and make a move. So if it's not going to be down into the hairpin, we really are going to have to see something ambitious to see a final overtaking position for 5th.
Wesley Diaz-Agosto there, just trying to line up a move on that Lightspeed Esports car. Lazarus is 6 seconds clear, so we're going to stick with this battle until we reach the end of the race, until we reach the final few corners at least. Lazarus 7 seconds clear. Really don't even know where that gap came from. It just seemed to appear all of a sudden, didn't it? It's consistency they've had late on in this race has been very impressive. VP Gaming have just got themselves up to 11th, a little bit further back, so they're trying to get themselves some more points. At the moment they'll pick up a point, but if they can get to 10th, they'll pick up 2, so that's an incentive for them on this final lap. But this is TX3, and it looks like they're in a position now to potentially have this settled for 6th.
Yeah, time's running out, and that gap's just grown over the last couple of corners, which is going to be really frustrating for them. I mean, we're not going to rule out a battle for the final podium spot, I don't think. 7/10 now the Jota car behind. That gap was multiple seconds a few laps ago. There is the Jota car, and there is the car in third. The podium they so desperately want, the podium position they were in after the pit stop phase, but unfortunately, through what we believe is a mistake down into one of the chicanes down in Mulsanne, it fell away. But they've got just a glimmer of hope of trying to pull that position back. But we've only got a matter of the Porsche curves and the final chicane to go. It looks like a bit of a tall order.
Well, it would be a fantastic effort either way. Jacob Boken's put in a very good drive today, as have these guys though. Lazarus, consistency is key in the Pro Team qualification series. It's about finishing in that top 6 to qualify for the super final at the Le Mans 24-hour next year. And Lazarus have got off to an almost perfect start, second in race number 1, and from 15th on the grid they have slowly worked their way through the order, and once they got into the lead they had been impossible to keep up with. Out of the final corner, Lazarus win the first endurance race of the season, and they will be the comfortable championship leaders with it as well. It's Lazarus who take the win. A big shout out to fast racers Forza, who put in a brilliant job, and they will finish in second place. And the last step of the podium, it's only just about going to go to the Pashura team. Jota finish in 4th place. A brave effort from them to recover so well. Pashura though, a brilliant drive. They finished 3rd. Lightspeed Esports will then finish in 5th. Then in 6th place we had virtual drivers by TX3. I believe it was Rise who finished in 7th place. Alien finished in 8th place. And we'll confirm the rest of the order very shortly as well. Well, it's settled down on the last lap, just about, I think, although it got very close for 3rd. But overall, there was no real time to rest. That race really did just fly by.
It might be called an endurance race, but that might as well have been a sprint race as well. I mean, it's fantastic to watch. Those guys going at it lap after lap, literally corner after corner, constantly swapping positions. It's what we as commentators and you guys at home love watching. It's what we love about motorsport, is just race-long battles back and forth, and just seeing who's going to play their cards right at the very end. And Lazarus especially, what a day they've had. Well, second place by 2/10, missing out on the win in the first race and then dominating the second race completely. It's hats off to them, it has to be said. But all the guys out there put on a fantastic show for us, so for that we thank you.
Yeah, there is a bit of a break now until the second round. In between now and the second round, we're going to get our first pro team actually onto the grid at Autosport, the Invitational. So going into this break now, they can really sort of take a seat back. They can take a bit of a breather, almost take a deep breath. They've got off to a good start. That's out the way, and now they can just focus on putting in good jobs throughout the rest of the season.
They can, especially, yes, but they'll be. I mean, all the teams will basically watch this back many times to see how the race unfolded from different perspectives. Obviously, they've only been able to see what happened in their race. They haven't been able to see how certain teams have managed to achieve certain results. There's a big learning curve that's going to happen between this event and the next event. That can be guaranteed, and it'll be really interesting to see how they come back after the break and apply themselves, and see if we see a different running order, different application of strategy and tactics that people have learned from this first event. And it makes a difference. We've got guys returning from the first season coming in, and they've got the experience under their belt. And we see new guys coming into the Le Mans Esports Series who may have struggled a little bit, with the adaptation from potentially the Forza Racing Championship, for example. Coming into Le Mans Esports is a different kettle of fish, essentially. So learning curves for all of them. Some of them have got an easier job than others to improve for the second event, but Lazarus will certainly be the ones, I think, taking the most time off if they can afford to.
And for some of the teams, Fortzilla just being one of them, we had one of the teams as well, VP Gaming, who have come over as Project Cars 2 champions. For them, it's almost a race that they've now just got out of the way, isn't it? They've been able to get themselves settled in. They've got a feel for what the competition is like, what the races are going to be like, strategy as well, in a way. now they can almost sort of reevaluate, as you said, look back on that footage and improve themselves for the following rounds.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you can do as much practice as you want to feel as prepared as possible for these kind of events, but nothing compares to the actual being in the competition at that time and at that moment. And you'll sit in practice and you'll think, I know if I'm in this position, I know I'm going to do this in the event. You come to being in that position in the event and everything goes out the window. You think, I'm just going to fire up the inside there because why not? But it's about keeping your head as best you can and making the most of your opportunities, not getting carried away with the pressure that can be on, the fact that you're racing for a position in the super final, racing for money. It's always an extra incentive and therefore an extra pressure that they have to deal with. I think they're all brilliant today. I don't think anyone put a foot wrong from what I could see. So, hats off to them.
Well, we have had actually a big change to the order, by the way. Jota, we were talking about just missing out on a podium after their dramas after coming out of the pits where they ran straight on. They have been promoted to third, I believe. There has been a penalty to the team who did finish third. So that was a fast race at Forza. I think they were second, in fact.
They were, yeah.
They have dropped.
A hefty penalty to be able to drop to fourth. So, I mean, it's disappointing for them. I mean, fourth is still a good result for them. They'll be disappointed that it's come off the back of what would have been a second place. But Jota essentially got their just rewards that they would have been after so desperately during that race.
Yeah, we'll confirm everything, the standings, how that changes things, but Fast Racers Forza have been given a penalty, and we will give you the updated championship at the end of that. Of course, all the drivers taking part in this are going to be the drivers we see throughout the season. It's 3 drivers in every team. That means we haven't seen every driver tonight. In some cases, we've only seen 1 driver from a team. So I'm not saying anything about the quality of each driver. They're all very, very fast. But some might come in, suit a certain car and track combination. Looking at it, we've got Mazdas at Silverstone for round 2. We've got the Porsche 935 at Nürburgring, a 4GT at Sebring, a Porsche 911 at Spa. Some drivers might see one of those track and car combinations and go, no one's going to beat me on that.
No, you've hit the nail on the head now. That's exactly what it could be. So as much as some teams have had contrasting races, great first event, poor first event, we can turn up to the second event with the Mazda and we can see a complete flip on its head. It's that's what makes it so good, is that we don't turn up to the same event thinking, well, Lazarus have done good in this event, so therefore they're going to be fantastic for every other event that we do. I'm sure they probably will be because they're a great team, but there's always an opportunity. There's something different that allows every team to be able to make an impact at every event. So it's something we've got to look forward to. They've obviously got to put the work into the teams to make sure that they are putting forward their best drivers to achieve the best results in those specific car and track combinations. They
can only do 2 sprint and 2 endurance races, so that means someone like Jacob Bokert, one of many drivers to do both today, we're only going to see him in 1 more sprint and endurance race throughout the entire season. There's 4 more rounds still to go. So I guess it's something we didn't really talk much about, but that's where perhaps mistakes might come in, because this is only 1 of 2 races I get to do. I have to get a good result, and sometimes it can force a driver to almost push too hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ways you can look at it. There's the pressure of knowing that you've got only, let's say you do the sprint race and endurance race for 2 events. That's your 2 lots of those races gone, so you're only taking part in 2 events in total. The pressure's on you at that time to deliver, whereas you might be able to take the opportunity to say, well, actually by doing so, I can put as much time as possible into just that car and that track times 2. You haven't got to worry about potentially taking part in 4 different rounds across 4 different car categories. So it can work for you, can work against you. Obviously, as we've seen today, a lot of it depends on just how the race unfolds, and it can boil down to quite literally how qualifying goes, and that can set your event from there.
Well, we could talk all night, I'm sure. We're going to give you some replays now. When we come back, we'll give you the updated championship standing, so don't go anywhere.
If you're going under the radar, so...
Oh, but this looks like a fight back, is it, from virtual drivers, and I think they you go, some replays. Very fitting music for
Absolutely.
the type of race it was, right?
10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say so. It was a real war, shall we say? And at the end of the day, Lazarus came out on top. We did have a penalty when the guys crossed the line. It was the only penalty that we had given out. It was a very clean race altogether. Fast Racers Forza, who finished second, sadly dropped to fourth with a penalty. That means Jota went up to third place, and that means Bashura went up to second place as well. So let's see how that affects the standings. We'll get that now on screen. Here we are, first round complete. Lazarus lead the way, 56 points. Jota, after a good recovery, finished second at the end of the first round with 48 points. Pashura, good drive from them. Virtual, they're third and fourth with 27. Fast Racers Forza, despite that penalty, finished fifth. Imagine they hadn't had that penalty, they'd surely be in a comfortable third. Lightspeed Esports, sixth. Good start for them. Likewise for Solar Vision. Red Bull, I think, will be fairly satisfied with eighth place. Not a good endurance race for them, unfortunately, but a good sprint leaves them in eighth. And then we'll look at the remaining standings. Rise had a good endurance race. They finished in ninth. Alien, likewise, good battles for them in the endurance. They finished 10th. VP made late climbs in the endurance race. That gives them a further couple of points to put them on 3 points. Everyone else on 1 point. So first wheel races for Fordzilla. Shauna Lacey off to a start as well. Legion of Racers gone mixed up in some incidents today. Likewise, Raging Dragon, Team Highlands Racing, the Kiwis. 1 point for them. They finish in 16th place. Now, I say I can ask, any surprises from those standings for you? I'd say overall, teams we didn't talk a huge amount about did do really well, kind of went onto the radar a little bit, and some of the bigger names, just on the outlook of it all, a little bit out of position.
Yeah, I mean, I know we said at the beginning of the show that we're expecting Red Bull Racing to do well. It turns out, they might be satisfied, but I think they'll ultimately be quite unhappy with that. I think they probably expect more from themselves ultimately. Right. They'll be unhappy with how the race has gone, but I think just themselves they'll be unhappy with that. They let it go that way. It's a tall look to the top now with Lazarus and Jota up there. Great start for them. But that midfield already, one event in, we've still got 4 more to go, of course, but the fact that they're fighting for the top 6, already it looks like third down to about 10th or 11th is already so congested that one good result can tip it on its head. So it's great. That's the teams at the bottom are going to be looking at sort of 5th, 6th place, thinking we probably won't be able to reach the top, but all we got to do is top 6. That's the main goal.
Well, there's going to be some teams that literally that is it. It's 6th. I don't care about the extra money. The winner of this qualification series gets 10,000. Just for getting to 6th, you get 3,000. Wherever you finish, you're going to get at least 1,000. So some people won't really be too worried about the money. They'll just want to get into that top 6. Well, here we can see we've had plenty of you getting in touch. Hashtag LMES if you want to send your messages now. The Lazarus guys there, very, very happy with that. Great drive there from LZR Racers, taking P1 in the Le Mans Esports Endurance race, claiming second in the sprint race as well. Phenomenal stuff. Can only agree with that.
Absolutely.
Very good.
That's factual stuff there from that comment, it must be said.
Basically.
But no, that is exactly what's happened. There's going to be a lot of teams and people watching that thinking they are good. They're going to be very difficult to beat. They didn't put a foot wrong, I don't think, throughout the entire first event. They've strong qualifying, strong first race, and a dominant second race. Of course, we're moving into different cars, different tracks, that can all change, but they'll be very, very pleased with how this first event has gone. Let's
just quickly preview then this second round, which is going to be on the 1st of February. Mazda 787B at Silverstone. What do you make of that?
That's going to be carnage, I reckon. That car is an absolute monster, and the track as well, all high speed. It's great to look at, so it's going to be good for us to watch. I'm sure the action's going to be intense. There's a recipe for a lot of incident because of just how dangerous and difficult that car is. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that, but that's going to take a lot of taming, that one. So whoever's going to come out on top of that really would have earned it.
Well, there you can see the confirmation of that. We'll roll through what's coming up next in everything else. You may have just seen it, Kim, on your screen, but we'll have a look at that one more time just to give you some more information on that. So next up is going to be the Autosport International Show. We're going to have a lot going on there. You can qualify through at the Autosport International to be one of the AM drivers, one of 9 AM drivers, the top 3 fastest drivers on our Hot Lap Challenge from Autosport will get a place to Le Mans. Anyone can come along and do that. Of course, we've got our pro individual qualifiers as well. So that we already have 3 drivers who qualified through from the first Rivals Challenge. And as you can see, the second one is starting very, very shortly as well. And it's going to be in the cars that we were racing in this evening. So people have had a good look at it. I'm sure people are going to be practicing. It's going to be on Road Atlanta in those cars. So get practicing. When the Rivals Challenge does open, you're going to have 10 days to take part in it. The fastest from each region will then qualify straight through to Le Mans and joins Fenrir, Vettel, Di Joker as well. They were the fastest from their regions in the first Rivals Challenge. So.
Yep, so it's nice that there's still things that people can do from the comfort of their own home. Now, you've got these specific events going on, the Pro Series, and then we've got the Rivals events going on where anyone and everyone can take part and find themselves in Le Mans next year. It's great.
We'll get through some more of your messages. There's so many coming in. Sorry we can't get through all of them, but we'll get through what we can. Interim driver of the day dropped to P16 after being taken out and made his way back to P5. We found our Lightspeed. That kind of, I'd say, slipped under our radar, the Lightspeed team there, doing a fantastic job to get that recovery. It's an endurance race. You've got plenty of time to recover. And they did that. And, of course, it was Akana in the car for them. Brilliant result.
Yeah, of course. I think we done them a favour by not mentioning them, so they didn't end up running into trouble. So I think we commentated cursed a few of them out there today. But as Kean said, a great result to go from P16 to P5, and especially after not necessarily starting there, but having an incident that means you're in 16th. It's always hard to build yourself up from an incident. So to do that and then go on an absolute rampage and finish 5th is brilliant.
And they had brilliant battles there with Jota. You can have your say, though, as well. Do let us know. Who was your driver of the day? Who was your team of the day? Get in touch at Le Mans Esports, hashtag LMES. We'll get through a couple of more messages before we wrap up. We've got Team Fordzilla, of course, their first time racing. Well done to Miguel for a strong effort today. Tough out there for Team Fordzilla, but we look forward to going again in round 2. So I think that's what we were talking about, isn't it? Fordzilla. Round 1 is done. It's out the way. Now we can find our where we're slower, perhaps, and improve on that for round number 2.
Yeah, as they mentioned, it was a tough day, but Team Forza are a great racing esports team. They're a great team, great drivers, and the fact they found it tough just shows the calibre of drivers that are in this event. You've got to be on the very top of your game to get solid results, and now I'm sure Forza will come out in the future events and put in some absolute stonking results, and they'll forget this first event as a moment of the past and probably a learning curve. Some teams even need this kind of result where they have a tough day, they learn from it, and then they're able to build on it much more than other teams.
That's it. So they'll find their weaknesses, I'm sure, and work on those. Solar Vision Racing, they had a very good day after 2 hard-fought races. Spectre, we currently sit P7 in the standings in the Le Mans Esports Pro Series. Fantastic outing by our driver for our first pro event. So very good for Solar Vision. We said we didn't have a huge amount on them. That's because it's their first pro event. They're 7th, so at this stage they would just miss out on a top 6, but there's still 5 rounds to go.
That's massive encouragement from them. As you say, they're just on the cusp of that top 6 after the first event. The goal is in sight. It's literally one place above them. They're probably going to be even thinking above that. They put themselves in a strong position early doors. It's a case of why not just push on, take experience from this one, and show us what you can do in the next events as well.
Their expectations now may be completely re-evaluated. So do get in touch with us, hashtag LMES at Le Mans Esports. Let us know who your driver of the day, team of the day was. Before we go, I'm going to put Harry on the spot. He didn't know this was coming, so here we go. Harry, any drivers who you think stood out, team stood out for you? Let's say not necessarily our winners, but any other teams that you didn't really look at coming in today, and now you think actually they're definitely ones to watch for the rest of the season.
I mean, you have to mention Lazarus for how well they performed, but apart from them, again, like we've seen from the social media comments, Lightspeed Esports, some fantastic results. Teams that we've not necessarily know too much about, as you say, like Solar Vision Racing. Teams that maybe a little bit under the radar, but they're able to perform, and they've shown us what they can do on this first event. And I'm sure they've got a lot more in the locker as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can provide us over the next few events to show us why they really deserve that top 6 finish.
Fast Racers Forza has got to be one for myself. Fantastic. If they did have that penalty, they would be comfortably 3rd in the championship. So That's about it. Let's quickly remind you what's going to be coming up next, and then we will leave it there. So the next things that are going to be coming up, the next round of the Pro Qualification Series. Of course, we're going to have the Hot Lap Challenges first. It's going to be on the 30th of November. Then we're going to have the Autosport Show Invitational, where we are going to have a pro team qualify. The winner of the Invitational will qualify, but you can qualify as an AM driver there. You can come along on all 4 days and set a lap. If you're one of the top 3 at the end, then you'll qualify through. And the next round for this is going to be on the 1st of February in the Mazdas at Silverstone GP. Harry says it's going to be carnage.
In a good way. In a good carnage. We like good carnage.
So you have to come and join us. Thank you very much for joining us for the Le Mans Esports Series Pro Team Qualification Series. This season number 2 is officially underway. 3 drivers have already qualified through in the Pro-Am class. Our Pro Team class is going to be very hard to call 6 teams out of that. The 1st of February is when you need to tune in for round 2, but do keep aware for the Autosport Show as well, because there will be things going on there. So make sure you come along over all 4 days and say hello. I've been Chris McCarthy. He's been Harry Jacks. This has been the Le Mans Esports Series. Thank you very much for watching. More coming up in January and February, but for now, it's goodbye.